Hello, so before the video starts I just want to let you know that this is a fanfic. I didn't write this, the link to the fanfic will be in the description. Anyways, let's begin. Life was good. Izuku Yagi had a loving family. A father, a mother, and his little sister Izumi, whom he loved dearly. He and his sister were essentially the same person. They were big hero fanatics, especially of All Might. They grew up with Katsuki Bakugo, who was hot-headed and brash. Izumi was a year younger, but they shared the same birthday. Izumi, like her brother, wanted to be a hero. Izuku had asked his mother if they could check his and Izumi's quirk at the same time. Enko nearly shed a tear at what a loving brother her son was. She agreed. Life was good. Until Izumi turned 4, that is. Suddenly, life wasn't great. Quirkless. Useless. Deku. His classmates beat him up daily. The teachers didn't bother about it. His friends. Kaken was the worst. Home life grew cold. His mother and father slowly but surely shifted all their attention to Izumi, who had a powerful telekinetic quirk. It started off small. It got worse as time went on. Their 7th birthday party. Even though it was both their birthday, Izumi's gifts were much nicer. She got a pro hero figure collection set, signed by All Might himself. He got notebooks, for his habit. Soon, after every little slip-up, he would be punished severely, from beatings, to going without food. He didn't let the pain show. Izumi was one of the only things that kept him going. She still supported him and frequently defended him from Bakugo's onslaught. They had made a promise to each other. To become heroes, the best of the best. A silly thing like quirklessness can't break that promise. Izumi's smile was more than enough to see him through. He would be a hero, one that saves everyone with a smile. They would do that together. That was all he fought towards, all he fought for. It got hard at times. It really did. Whenever he felt like he couldn't go on, he visited the comic book shop. The owner, a Hisashi Midoriya, was quirkless as well. Izuku would have a long chat with him, and occasionally Midoriya would take time off work and treat the kid to something nice. Hisashi eventually introduced him to his sister, who he lived with, a nice lady called Mei. And she would tell him the words he loved to hear. Words he would have loved to come from his father, Toshinori Yagi. Words he needed to hear from his father. Or his mother. You can be a hero. That was all Izuku needed to keep smiling. His sister and the Midoriyas. It all came crashing down. The last day of high school. You know how it goes. I'm going to UA. Don't lump me in with these extras. Oh, Izuku, you're shooting for UA as well, correct? Why yes. The class laughs. Bakugo attacks him. They got rid of the quirkless rule. Izumi yells. He can do it. That day ended with one of the worst beatings Izuku had ever gotten. When it was over, Bakugo said something that made Izuku's blood run cold. If you really wanna be a hero, just take a swan dive off a building. Maybe you'll have a quirk in your next life. He walked off with his clique, leaving Izuku lying there, outside the school, broken, both on the inside and outside. Maybe. No. Izumi would probably kill me if I kill myself, he thought to himself. He chuckled, trying to lift his spirits. He pulled himself up from the ground. He picked up his burned notebook and flipped through it. Phew. I can still read it. He slipped the notebook into his backpack, and began the journey home. He usually waited for Izumi, but he didn't want her to see him like this. He walked in silence. Bakugo's words playing on repeat. Nice, a medium-sized skin suit. Izuku looked around. Where had that voice come from? Before he could do anything, a viscous sludge-like substance very quickly overwhelmed him. Hold still, kid. He began to suffocate. Was this it? He began to lose consciousness. Smaayayayash. Hey kid, you alright? All Might was slapping Izuku lightly. All Might. Yup. I took care of that villain for you. You All Might. Can I have your autograph? Way ahead of you, little one. All Might handed Izuku one of his notebooks, and sure enough, there it was. TT, thank you so much. No problem. I have a question. Shoot. See, can someone quirkless like me be a hero like you? All Might flinched slightly before answering. Q quirkless? No, I don't believe so. It's an admirable goal, but it's just not realistic. Why not become a police officer, or a firefighter, if you really want to help people? It was the same reasoning thing his parents gave whenever he brought it up. Izuku was too torn up to think about that now. His dreams were just shattered. You can't be a hero. You can't be a hero. I see. Sorry for wasting your time, he said quietly. Think nothing of it, young one. Well, I'll be on my way now. All Might leaped away, leaving Izuku on his own. His tears hit the floor. He didn't even realize they were his tears at first. All at once, all the pain came out. He began to weep uncontrollably. He fell to his knees and continued sobbing. The sounds were so heart-wrenching that a passerby walked over. Hey, kid, you okay? Izuku sniffed and pulled himself together. Yeah, I'm okay. What got you so sad? I'd rather not talk about it. Okay. Can you get home on your own? Yes. I'm sorry if I bothered you. It's fine, just get better, okay? He smiled at the passerby's kindness and decided not to go home. He walked towards F.E.A.S.T, where he'd been volunteering for a while. He enjoyed helping the people who couldn't help themselves. It solidified his resolve to become a hero. The place was filled with people without quirks, or weak and villainous quirks. He hated the fact that people's lives were made unnecessarily harder just because of their quirk. It wasn't right, and he did his best to change that. Everyone at the shelter had come to know and love the green mop of hair. He worked and helped out for an hour, then he eventually had to leave. He walked the rest of the way home, numb to the sounds of the city. He no longer had a distraction from All Might's words. You can't be a hero. He opened the door to his house, and his mother was sitting on the couch, her arms crossed, waiting for him. Hi, Mo-. Why are you coming in so late? Her voice was cold. I was attacked by a villain, but All Might saved me. I heard. But that was a while ago. Where have you been? She asked again. I went to the shelter. Go to your room. But you're lucky today. Izumi brought home good results. To your room. He walked up the stairs. No dinner tonight. I always bring home good results, though. Well, as good results as a quirkless can get, he thought sadly. He walked into his room and collapsed face down on his bed and drifted off to sleep. Izumi's squealing woke him up. He jolted awake. He shook it off and quietly and carefully opened his door. Worst case scenario, it was a villain attack. Didn't matter either way. He didn't want to alert his parents either. But if they were hurting his little sister. He made his way to the stairs and glanced at the living room. What he saw nearly stopped his heart. All Might. And Emerald. What are they doing in our house? Really? Izuku heard his sister say. Really? We are your parents. What did All Might just say? Siam took off her mask and All Might went poof, and standing there were Enko and Toshi Noriyagi. Hello, darling, Enko said. The love in her voice was something that Izuku hadn't heard from her in a long time. Mom and Dad. Izumi ran and hugged them. Izuku was starting to feel jealous. This is amazing, she said. Wait till Izuku hears this. Sweetheart, could you not tell Izuku? Not yet. Why? Then All Might explained his quirk, one for all, to Izumi. He said if anyone was to find out, they'd be in danger of his nemesis, All for One. He planned to give his quirk to Izumi, as she would be trained at UA. When he mentioned that he was once quirkless, Izuku began to seethe with rage. Wait, why aren't you giving it to Nii-chan? Izuku? Honestly? You have the better quirk. It would be useful against All for One. And Izuku just doesn't have what it takes. Yes, he does. He's already more of a hero than I am. What do you mean? He's so kind to everyone he meets. He volunteers at FEAST with Mr. Midoriya. Mr. Midoriya? He's quirkless, isn't he? Siam stated, an annoyed look on her face. Izumi noticed this, and chose to ignore it. And he's training hard. He's the one that cleaned up Dagaba Beach on his own. Really? Yeah. And he doesn't have a quirk. Please give it to him. He deserves it more than I do. Well, okay. Go call him down, he's in his room. Izumi beamed and bounded up the stairs. Toshi? He really cleaned up the beach by himself. Apparently so. I don't believe it. I also find it hard to believe, but Izumi really wants this. Well, you know how she loves her brother. Izumi knocked on the door. Nii-chan. Are you there? She asked. Izuku opened the door, and before she could speak, he caught her in a bone-crushing hug, and began to cry. Zumi, I love you so much, he sobbed. Nii-chan. What's wrong? Izumi asked her brother, concerned. You keep it. I want nothing to do with that man. Wadash. I was listening. And they're just like everyone else. What are you talking about, Izuku? They don't like me, haven't you noticed? They love both of us the same, Izuku. Think about it. You really think that's true? She did think about it. Anytime she felt Izuku was being neglected, he would know, and he'd flash one of his biggest smiles at her. You'd always smile, but, why don't they? Like I said, they're like everyone else. Just because I'm quirkless. Izumi knew he was telling the truth. Don't worry. I'm sure you'll do great things with that quirk. Izumi nodded and wiped away her tears. Her brother hugged her again. Come on. Don't cry. Let's go. Ah, young Izuku. Your sis dash. Can it? Wadash. I said, I don't want to hear it. Kid, you better respect your elders, Siam scolded. Let Izumi have it, I want nothing to do with you. Siam is right, you know. Who do you think you're talking to? Izuku said nothing but glared at the Heroes. No, these guys weren't heroes. If I was your father, I wouldn't hesitate to punish you. Izumi gasped and covered her mouth. Izuku sighed and let out a laugh. His chuckle was full of darkness and despair. It was a depressing sound and it was out of place. Thank goodness you aren't. All Might and Siam smirked and changed into Toshinori and Inko. Izuku. You're obviously not worthy. No. You're not worthy. You two make my life in this place a living hell, and for what? We put a roof over your head, you should be grateful. Inko exclaimed. Izuku chuckled darkly. Yep. Going without food and being beat by my parents day in, day out. That's the dream, isn't it? There are prisons with better living conditions. Young M. I'm not done, he interrupted. When was the last time you two did anything with me? We went to the beach as a family the other day. Izumi inhaled sharply. Izuku face palmed. I wasn't there. Yes you were. I took pictures. Enko exclaimed. Look through them. And the parental heroes did, their faces falling as they realized he wasn't in any of them. That beach took me months to clean. Liar, Enko said, under her breath. Izuku twitched but ignored her. And I've been there with Izumi and the Midoriyas. Do you even have any pictures of me? What does it matter? All Might asked. Do you even care about me at all? Izuku yelled, tears in his eyes. Izuku Yagi, you will not shout at your parents. Didn't you hear me? You aren't my parents. Izumi began to cry. Izuku felt a pang of guilt. And you? It's an amazing story, really. From quirkless to number 1. Too bad you forgot your roots. You know what it's like. Whoever was your predecessor made a grave mistake, giving a quirk like that to a meathead like you. Something resonated in Toshinori Yagi. This small part of him knew the boy was right. Too bad it was only a small part. Get out of my sight, he said. Izuku met his glare. So if I had a strong quirk, and Izumi didn't, would you have neglected her, he asked. Get out of my sight. Would you? Toshinori switched back into his buff form. Get out of my sight. Fine. With that, Izuku thundered up the stairs and into his room, slamming his door. He controlled his breathing and began to look around. All Might looked back from every corner of the room. He began to yell in righteous rage as he went nuts, tearing down posters, destroying action figures, anything that had that grin on it wasn't safe. He began to pack his things, basically only clothes and books. While he was moving things around, a book fell to the ground. Izuku went to pick it up. It opened up to the page his former idol had signed. Go Beyond. Plus Ultra. All Might. Izuku growled and ripped out the page. He tore it in half, then in half again, and again. He calmed himself down. He slung his bag over his shoulder. He took a deep breath and opened his door, and Izumi was standing there with tears in her eyes. She saw the bag on her brother's back and she nearly broke down. Didonti, don't go, please. The guilt returned in waves. Izuku pulled his little sister into an hug and she cried into his shoulder. Hey, it's okay, Zumi. It's not your fault. If anything, it's mine. I hid all those feelings for so long. He trailed off. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I don't want you to go. I'll stay with the Midoriyas. If they don't let me in, I'll stay at FEAST. You can always come see me, as long as you don't bring the censored downstairs. But dash. Listen, we made a promise, and nothing short of death will break that promise. You hear me? Nothing. You'd better take All Might's quirk, okay? Don't let me stop you. We'll still be pro-heroes together, just like we promised. Become strong for me, okay? I'll see you at UA. Hisashi and Mei had taken in Izuku in a heartbeat. The kid had been through a lot and had finally snapped. His sister was an angel, but their parents, well, they could do better. Hisashi forced Izuku to quit the jobs he was working, so he could have some semblance of a normal life. Izuku picked up more hobbies in his free time. He still volunteered at FEAST like he'd always done. Izuku began drawing more than just heroes. Hisashi noticed this, and got him an art pad as a surprise gift. Upon receiving the pad out of nowhere, Izuku began to tear up. Kid, what the hell? Why are you crying? Sorry. It's just, this is more thoughtful than anything my parents ever gave me. Mei excused herself. Well, expect more things like this, Hisashi replied, before chasing after his elder sister to restrain her. Izuku also started studying harder, and gained a newfound appreciation for science, especially the work of David Shield, a quirkless scientist. He found out that a team from my island, where he worked, would be in town soon for a presentation on quirk science. Izuku mulled over the demonstration over breakfast. Hisashi and Mei also ate in silence, worried, as it was tense for no apparent reason. Kid, what's on your mind? Hisashi finally asked. It's nothing. No, it's not. Come on, Michelangelo, you can tell me anything. Well, it's just. A group from my island is presenting here soon. The quirk science presentation? Oh, I'll be going for that next week. Wanna join? Not responding, diagnosing errors, unexpected kindness, rebooting. What? You? Yes, please, thank you so much. Ain't no thing. At the event, Izuku essentially transcribed every word said. He made sure to cover every square inch of the venue. There were booths around showcasing how radiation relates to quirks using animal test subject. Most people focused on the multicolored mice, but Izuku made his way to the spiders at the back. The spiders didn't seem affected by the conditions they'd been subjected to, and the scientists barely paid them any attention. One had gotten out of its enclosure and was scuttling around the table. Izuku watched it sadly. No one cares about you, not even the people that brought you here, he muttered. He let the spider walk onto his hand. I know what that feels like. He brought the spider up to eye level and stared at it. To be subjected to all kinds of ow. The spider bit his palm. Izuku instinctively killed it. We were having a moment. When it set in that he just possibly killed an important research tool, he slowly stepped away, whistling unsuspiciously. Thanks for inviting me. No problem, but kid, you okay? Oh, Mr. Midoriya, I think I'ma lie down, I feel kinda woozy. You're sure you don't need a doctor? Doctor? Pfft, don't be silly, I'm quirkless, not trying to die. What? What do you mean? Quirkless don't usually make it out of hospitals, with all their organs. Is that true? Happened to some of the guys at Feast, don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Sure kid. Go lie down. Bye. Izuku woke up feeling refreshed. More refreshed than he'd ever felt in his life. He felt like nothing could go wrong. He let out a sigh of content, then started his day. He went down for breakfast with Hisashi and Mei Midoriya. Hey, Michelangelo. You feeling better? Yeah, thanks, Mr. Midoriya. The small family fell silent as they ate, the clatter of cutlery on dishes the only sound in the room. Sweetie. Mei spoke up. Izuku felt his heart squeeze. Why yes. About what you said yesterday. Is that true? About the quirkless not making it out of hospitals with all their organs. Partly. Like I said, I heard it from people at FEAST. It's more likely that they sold their organs, but were stiffed out of a full payment, he said. Mei nodded. Izuku took a deep breath before continuing. Although, there are definitely a few cheap hospitals that outright steal organs from the quirkless. An angry look overtook the Midoriya's features. Izuku felt bad for bumming everyone out. I'll have to look into that, Hisashi said. Sorry about bringing that up. Kid, you need to learn to stop apologizing. You've done the right thing, bringing this to our attention. Izuku smiled and nodded. He finished eating and told the family he was going to see his sister. They waved him off. Zumi. You really missed me that much. I've barely been gone a month. And we see each other every day. I don't care. I love you too, sis. He paused. How are your parents doing? They were moody. Izuku perked up. At first, Dad somehow convinced himself it was fine. Now it's as if they don't even care that you left. They didn't even tell anyone you ran away. Shouldn't have asked. Come on. Let's get back to training. The two began to work out. Izuku had forced Izumi into a hellish training routine. All Might had said that he'd train her body so that she'd become a suitable vessel for the power. Izuku was always going to be a quirk nerd, and didn't want to imagine what would happen if Izumi wasn't suitable. He'd told her to ask All Might. Apparently, my limbs would be blown off if I tried to use it. That didn't sound pleasant. And so they trained. Nii-chan. Dad said it was safe to give me the quirk soon. That's great. Okay. We're done with workouts for the day. What? But we usually train for longer dash. Oh, we're still training. You're gonna spar against me. Okay. I'll just dash. You're not allowed to use your quirk. What? Why? What if you come across a villain that can nullify your quirk? Well. Exactly. Now come at me. Izumi grinned and dashed at her big brother. He felt a tingling sensation. Suddenly it looked like she was moving in slow motion. He could sense the direction the attack was coming from and moved out of harm's way. He'd been brushing up on his self-defense, but this was a whole other level. Come on, hold still. Why should I? Izuku replied. He was putting on a brave face, but inside he was freaking out. What the hell? What was that? Izumi attacked again. Dodge. Another punch. Dodge. Once more. He dodged, but this time Izumi attacked again, while he was slightly off balance. He should have been hit, but he backflipped out of the way. What? Nice. Thanks. I didn't even know I could do that. Then Izumi's phone began to ring. Ugh. It's Dad. Sorry, Zuku. Nah, go ahead. While Izumi was on the phone, Izuku had his hands on his head, going through a miniature existential crisis. What since when can I flip like it's second nature and how the hell did I dodge so easy? Izuku, I gotta go. Izumi snapped him out of it. He went to remove his hands from his head, but he couldn't. Whoa, sorry, I zoned out. He's giving you the quirk. Why yeah, I might not be able to come over as much. He'll probably be even more involved in my training. No problem. Where are you training? At a gym. Maybe I can come watch from a distance. No, sorry. Dad has an agreement with UA. I'm going to be training there. Oh. Bummer. Well, see you later, I guess. Bye, Nii-chan. She dashed off, leaving Izuku with his fingers trapped behind his head. He took a deep breath and relaxed, and his fingers popped off his scalp. He stared at his hands. Do I put my hands there that often? Zumi didn't even notice his sweat dropped. What's going on? Do I have a quirk? How did I get it? First I can sense danger, then I could jump really high, now my fingers are sticky. Oh, that spider from the demonstration. Did it give me powers? What else do I got? I think the jumping really high is just enhanced strength, that makes more sense, and I guess I'm agile now, if that flip was anything to go by. And the stickiness. I gotta try something. He ran to the side of a building. He placed his fingers on the wall. He tried pulling it off. It didn't budge. Sticky fingers? Check. With his arm firmly planted on the wall, he attempted to lift himself off the ground with only one hand. Success. Strength. Check. He put his feet on the wall, and slowly removed his hand. He didn't fall to the ground, he stayed on the wall. Sticky feet? Check. He walked up the wall, took a deep breath and leaped off. He executed a perfect double flip and landed on his feet. Acrobatic and agile? Check. He got back on the wall, and tried walking in all directions. This is incredible, he thought. The only thing I don't have is, his spider sense went off. A woman opened her window and began to yell at the poor kid. He panicked and dropped off the wall. He put out his hand to break his fall and he landed on it. Hard. He quickly apologized for disturbing the lady, and she shut her window in a huff. He began to massage his wrist. A thick white silk came shooting out. Webs. Check. He studied his wrists. He realized he didn't need to squeeze his wrist to expel web. All he needed to do was tense the new muscles and organs that had grown in. The best way to do that was to push down with his two middle fingers, the bottom of his palm. /N, you know the Spider-Man thing. I must also be more durable. That fall should have sprained it, but my wrist feels fine. Izuku got up and started the journey to the Midoriya home. He was itching to document his new abilities. He wasn't sure if it was a quirk, per se. No matter. He could use these powers to be a hero. He stopped walking and smiled. I can be a hero. What do you mean you want to teach me how to flirt? I mean, I need nieces and nephews. Okay. That's too far into the future. Girls stay away from me, in case you didn't know. The whole quirkless condition chases them off. That's how you know those girls are expletive. It's scary how happily you just cursed. Come on Nii-chan. You're a nice guy and you look good. I look good. We're basically identical, dummy. Of course you look good. I do not see a problem with that logic. Irrefutable. Shut up. Okay, so the most important part is the dash. Love making. What? I mean, how else are you gonna get nieces and or nephews? Izuku, I swear. The most important part is the approach. First impressions are everything. I guess that makes sense. Go on. Walk up to them, right? Walk confidently. Okay. When you reach her, make sure her attention is on you. Then place your hand on their shoulder to assert dominance. Then, make sure you're getting this, say hey all cool like. I call it the shoulder touch. I fear for your future boyfriend. Oh, that is it. Stay away from me, you crazy woman. I'll kill you. Ah Izumi no. Izumi yes. Izumi's eyes fluttered open. That was a nice dream. It was one of her favorite memories. She sighed and got out of bed. She visited her brother often. He even helped her train her new quirk. He was a better teacher than her father, the #1 hero. At first, the backlash to the power devastated her body. All Might tried to teach her how to regulate the power. He'd said some crap about an egg not exploding in a microwave. Izuku wasn't much better. His metaphor was imagine listening to music through headphones at 100% volume. It hurts. That's what you're doing. Try taking the volume down a bit. Thinking in percentages did help. Izuku also helped her develop a new technique. He called it full cowling. Izumi would let the power flow everywhere on her body at once, enhancing all her physical abilities. There was a small incident the first time she did it. Good. Good. Let the hate flow through you, he said in his best, Emperor Palpatine, voice. Izumi snorted and burst into laughter, hitting Izuku in the process. She gasped and ran over to check on him. He wasn't moving at first. He then let out a chuckle. Worth it, ow. Idiot, Izumi laughed, helping him up. All Might worked on her physical strength the most. The training helped, as she was able to handle higher percentages the stronger she got. Her brother came up with more techniques for ways she could actually use one for all. Her original quirk, telekinesis, had gotten stronger. Her favorite move that she and Izuku came up with was using controlling all the rubble in the area and slamming it on a fixed target. He dubbed it Psionic Smash, she wanted to call it Psychic Storm. That was one of the biggest arguments they've ever had. They ended up creating two different moves. Hitting a single target was Psionic Smash, while the large area of effect attack was Psychic Storm. Izumi was right about Toshinori being more involved in her training, however. A few months after she got All Might's quirk, One for All, she was barely coming over. Once every month at best. Izuku didn't hold it against her. They still talked over the phone. And he was secretly glad to have the extra time to train his new skills. He'd kept them under wraps for a few reasons. He wasn't sure how Mr. Midoriya would react. He also wanted to get used to the new abilities. The webs were the most versatile tool in his arsenal. He could use them for combat, traversal, and more. Lastly, he wanted to surprise Izumi. The UA entrance exams were 2 days away. Izuku was at a general store. He bought a bulk order of green, red, blue, and black spandex. It was on sale. This is a fanfic, roll with it. He wanted to make a superhero suit. Izumi was meant to come over for the last time, and he was finally going to tell her about his abilities. He stepped out of the store and his early warning system went off. He stepped out of the way. The UA entrance exam was tomorrow. A villain ran by. They seemed to have a fire-based quirk and was wreaking havoc with it. I have to do something. Izuku's mind screamed. He starts running, but then he hears the last thing he wanted to hear. It's fine now. Why? Izuku cursed under his breath. Because I am here. All Might. His father. Izuku stopped running. He was fuming, but he didn't let it show. He let All Might handle the villain. It was All Might's responsibility now. Not his. He quietly watched the hero chase the villain, following the two. Old habits die hard. The villain set fire to a building, and Izuku's heart stopped. Fast. Izuku stopped processing things properly. The villain escaped, but that wasn't important right now. Hisashi was in there. People began to filter out, thankfully. Izuku scanned them for the kind face of his new father figure. No luck. Is that everyone? I think so. Izuku heard someone say through coughs. Thank goodness. Excuse me, I have a villain to catch. Wait. There's still someone in there, idiot. Too late, the hero had leaped out of earshot. Damn it. This wouldn't have happened if I did something. Izuku pulled a piece of fabric from his bag, and fashioned a makeshift mask. Ignoring the yells of the crowd, he dashed inside the building. Hisashi would have most likely been helping evacuate people. He might have gone in deeper to look for any others. Izuku ran up the stairs. As he got to the higher floor, the steps burned out and fell away from the wall, cutting off Izuku's escape route down the stairs. He ran through the flaming halls, paying no mind to the fact that it was getting harder to breathe. There he was, under a closed window. He must have been trying to get out through it. Hisashi was on the floor, laying perfectly still. Izuku ran over and checked frantically for a pulse. It was weak, but his heart was still beating. Izuku tried to breathe a sigh of relief, but was sharply reminded that Fast was on fire. He picked up Hisashi and shattered the window. He climbed out and went up the fire escape, getting to the roof. He glanced down at the terrified onlookers. Hisashi might not survive that drop, his body was already battered. His spider sense, that hadn't shut up since he stepped in, was starting to get stronger. He began to rack his mind for a solution that didn't involve him jumping off the building. Nii-chan. Izumi. Izuku looked down and saw Mei and Izumi, the latter in tears. Izumi. Help me get him down, he yelled. She nodded, and Izuku held Hisashi's unconscious body over the edge. Izumi used her quirk to safely bring him down to ground level. Izuku smiled in relief. His spider sense peaked. The building exploded. Izumi screamed. Mei gasped. The crowd fell silent. Izumi began to dash towards the rubble. A wooden branch extended to stop her. Kamui Woods had just shown up, a bit too late. He had started keeping people back from the flames, and he couldn't get near himself. Izumi couldn't get past him. She was breaking down in tears. Mei grabbed her and didn't let go. She pulled the girl into a hug, and Izumi began to cry. We were going to UA together. She sobbed. Mei rubbed the girl's back. Your brother was a hero. What's your favorite color? That's random. Why? What's your favorite color? Ugh. Green. Just because of our hair? Nii-chan, that's boring. No. I actually like green. Yeah, right. You just don't want to think. Whatever. What about you? Red. Wait, blue. Red? One of the two. Or both. And you accuse me of not thinking. Shush. Memories were swirling in Izuku's mind. He remembered a fire. Was Hisashi alright? Yes. Izumi had saved him. But then, an explosion. He'd ignored the tingling in his head. What had happened next? He opened his eyes. He was buried under rubble. He tried moving, but pain flooded his senses. A piece of metal was protruding from his thigh. He was pinned down. He blinked away tears and tried moving again, this time fighting through the pain. He placed his palms on the large piece of wall that was pinning him down. He pushed with all his strength. It felt lighter than he expected. Oh yeah, super strength. I wonder if... No, this wasn't the time for that. He had no idea how long he'd been there, buried in the concrete and ashes. He could no longer hear the bustle of the crowd of onlookers. He dug his way out into the open air and took a deep breath. Bad idea. The fire was out, but the air wasn't great to breathe. He coughed violently. The metal in his thigh cut a little bit deeper. He winced in pain. He gingerly placed his fingers on it and yanked it out in one swift motion. He hissed and bit his lip. He took off his backpack and tore off a piece of fabric to use to wrap the wound. He looked around. It was dark out. He'd been buried for hours. If not for the spider that bit him, he'd be dead. He got up. I gotta get home dash. Who's there? A hardened voice interrupted him. There was clear malice behind it. Izuku, wisely, shut up. It's nothing, man, another voice said. You're being paranoid. It's not paranoia if they're really out to get you, his partner countered. One of the voices was gagged. Shut up, you. It's not our fault you bumped into us. We're on the run, and we can't have you blabbing to the authorities. Izuku's heartbeat quickened. Criminals, and they had a hostage. I gotta do something, he thought. But I can't know. That's how Hisashi got hurt. Never again. He already had spandex wrapped around his neck. He pulled it over his nose and mouth, and leapt into action, ignoring the stinging pain he was in. It was two men, one leaning against the wall, and the other wrestling with a young woman who was gagged. Who are you? Leave her alone, the masked figure said. You just had to butt in, didn't you? The man activated his quirk, creating clones of himself. The masked figure looked around in shock. All the clones rushed him. Attack of the clones wasn't that good, the masked figure said. Izuku realized immediately that his spider sense reacted weaker to most of the attacks he dodged. Weakened clones, maybe, he wondered. One of them landed a hit, and immediately fizzled out. Another one popped out of midair to replace it, near instantly. The masked figure groaned and resumed battle. He flipped out of the way to avoid one, and landed on his bad leg. His eyes snapped shut in pain. All at once, spider sense went from constant buzzing to near silent. He opened his eyes. Spider sense flared back up again. Illusions that work if I see them, he realized. What an amazing quirk. He kept evading hits from the fakes, waiting until his spider sense peaked. And when it did, he immediately karate chopped the man in the neck, knocking him out. On cue, the illusions faded away into nothingness. Pretty cool light show, all things considered, the figure said. How did you dash? The other guy exclaimed. Tightening his grip on the girl in his hands, he pulled out a firearm. Hey! Hands up, he shouted, pointing it at the vigilante, who obeyed, not wanting the girl in danger. Good, now leave us alone, he said. The masked figure could hear the fear in the man's voice. You're quirkless, aren't you? It was more of a statement than a question. So what if I am? Is that why you're a criminal? There are people who can help. How would you know? The only place that even cared about me burnt down 3 days ago. Fast? 3 days. Listen, leave me alone, or she gets it. The weapon changed targets, and the barrel was pressed to the side of the girl's temple. She began to shake involuntarily. Izuku panicked. Huh? Where'd he go? What? Does he not see me? Izuku wondered. He looked down at his hands. Or where his hands should have been. Invisibility? Check. Izuku took full advantage of this new ability. He tiptoed over to the criminal and wrenched the gun from his hands. The man screamed and swung wildly, and was suddenly knocked out. The girl watched the man suddenly fall to the ground, seemingly out of nowhere. She looked around frantically. She saw nobody. Then suddenly she felt hands on her back. She began to squirm. I am untying you. She heard a voice say. She sat still. The hands untied her wrists and undid her gag. There. Finished. You can continue squirming and yelling like a madman, the voice teased. She whipped around but didn't see anyone. She was a brunette, with a bob cut and a light pink blush in her cheeks. Beautiful. The voice whispered. Who said that? The confused, and slightly flustered, girl asked. Oh right, you can't see me? He blipped into view. Hi, are you okay? I'm fine, thank you. Go ahead and call the police while I take care of these guys. She nodded and dialed an emergency line. While she was on the phone, she studied her savior, who was using the silk from his wrists to tie the criminal's hands up. He was dressed plainly, aside from the makeshift mask on his face. His clothes were singed in places and blood was clearly seeping from a wound on his leg. The operator let her know that she had dispatched an officer to her location and ended the call. The girl walked slowly over to the vigilante. Hi. I wanted to say thank you, she said. It was no problem. You looked like you needed help, so I helped. I thought. She started. The masked man saw the look in her eyes. He sighed. He got up and put an arm around her. It's fine. You're safe now. This man radiates safety, she thought. She broke down and hugged him, and started to bawl her eyes out into his chest. Izuku panicked again. It thought IIW was going to die, she stuttered. It's okay. Hey, talk to me, get your mind off it. What's your name? Yurika Okako. I'm, Spider-Man. She looked at him confused. Well, I'm not in costume. It's not my fault you bumped into those guys. You think I wanted to? Sorry. I have a habit of making bad jokes in tense situations. I can tell. It's okay. Tell me about yourself. Any goals you have? I want to go to UA and become a pro hero. It sounds like you've said that a lot. Any reason why in particular? Well, at first. I wanted to be a hero just for the money. My parents need it, we aren't that rich. At first. I made a friend during the entrance exam yesterday. Her older brother died in the fire a few days ago to save someone. Even though he was quirkless. She told me that he was the kind of guy that let nothing stop him, and he promised her that they'd do U.A.'s hero course together. Now I also want to be a selfless hero like her brother, and to help my friend. Izuku didn't know what to feel. I am sure the two of will become great heroes. And I'm sure your friend is overjoyed to have met someone like you. I know I am. Kia. Someone like me. Have you thought about a hero name? Yeah. My quirk is zero gravity, so my hero name is Urivite. How does your quirk work? I can make things I touch with all 5 of my fingers weightless. How long depends on the mass of the object. Cool, the masked man said, enthused. The girl beamed at the praise. Okako, do you feel better now? Yes, and Okako is my given name. I'm sorry. It's just that, Urivite uses Eureka, so I figured that was your given name. Sorry. It's fine. You saved my life. You can call me Okako if you want. Oh, okay, Okako. I'm going to leave now. But, I feel safer with you. The police are here, and I really have to patch myself up. Okay. See you around, Urivite. The vigilante shot a silk line out of his wrist, and used it to pull himself onto a wall. He landed on the wall palms first, and crawled up the side, onto the rooftops, out of sight. Spider-Man makes more sense now, Okako thought. If you think about it, All Might is a simple but effective hero name. Go on. So, All Might. Basically saying he has all the might, so he's essentially saying he's the strongest. Okay, so I know All Might is your favorite hero, but that was a stretch. Oh, and Emerald is a better name. Yeah. Gasp, I'm hurt. I don't think I can call you my sister anymore. You think you could come up with the coolest hero name, don't you? Of course I could. I'm willing to bet cash money, that when you pick a hero name, it'll be as uninspired as Eraserhead. You're on. Spider-Man, huh? That went about as well as it could have. Izuku watched from the rooftops as the police took Okako's statement and arrested the 2 criminals, who, as they'd said, were wanted men on the run. When the commotion died down, he went back to the rubble that was the FEAST shelter. He looked around sadly. He made his way to one of the medic rooms that was relatively untouched by the fire and flames and got out a first aid kit. He began to treat his wounds. The cut in his leg was the worst. When he was done, he laid down on a cot and went to sleep. The next morning, Izuku went through his bag. Spandex and cash. He remembered that he wanted to make hero costumes with his sister. He'd missed the UA entrance exam. He sat down on an empty cot. He pulled out the two colors he'd gotten for his sister. Red and blue. Tears formed in his eyes. Blinking them away, he set to work. Armed with only a needle and thread, he fashioned a full bodysuit. A shirt, pants, gloves, boots, and a mask. The lenses in the mask were made with a white mesh and tough plastic. He could see out, but no one could see in. Spider-Man, wish I came up with something better. Might as well lean into it. He used the black fabric to make a spider emblem on the front and back, and inlay continuous lines throughout the costume, emulating a spider's web. He slipped on the outfit. This could work, he thought, admiring his handiwork. He put on his backpack and left the burnt husk of a building. He whipped a web into the air, it latched onto a wall. He took a deep breath and he pulled himself into the air. He let go and shot another line. He eventually settled into a nice pattern. Thwip and release. Thwip and release. Swinging feels natural, he thought. This is actually quite fun, and it's a nice combination of my abilities. Releasing a web line with a surge of confidence, he did a mid-air flip. He landed on a wall and ran alongside it, keeping his momentum. He leaped off it, and made a corner, narrowly avoiding a billboard. He shot out another web line and kept going. I hope Okako got home okay. His thoughts wandered to how beautiful she was. Consequently, he missed his next web shot and began to fall out of the sky. He hastily saved himself and caught his breath. I could definitely use some practice though. He said to himself. We'll figure something out, Hisashi. I know we will, but this hospital bill, we could barely pay it. But we did. And the kid, he should have dash. No, I won't let you blame yourself. Yeah, sorry. He had his whole life ahead of him. I'm sure he loved you like a father. I'm pretty sure I heard him call himself Izuku Midoriya a few times. He'd left his old one behind. He couldn't bear to lose you. May, I just wish I could tell him I'd have been the best father I could. Even with these money troubles. If I have to sell the comic book store to make ends meet, I will, just to take care of him. Hisashi broke down in tears. May hugged him and began crying as well. Izuku, who'd been listening to the conversation through a window, began to weep as well. He couldn't go back. He refused to put them under any more pressure. He climbed into his room and took what he needed, careful not to take too much. Not to let his surrogate parents he was still kicking. He stuffed the rest of his savings and a change of clothes into his bag. He climbed back out the apartment window and swung away, willing himself not to cry. Izuku had been living off the little cash he had left. It got him through the week, and he spent his free time being Spider-Man, but his lack of swinging ability had gotten him to first base with a billboard. He decided to take some time off to practice. Practice makes perfect, he muttered to himself. He glanced over the edge of the building, the highest in the area. I just gotta jump, that's all, he told himself, hopping on the spot, attempting to psyche himself up. Funny thing is, I'm still terrified of heights. I have to get over that, he chuckled to himself. What if I close my eyes? What I can't see can't hurt me, right? He sighed and took a step back from the edge. Maybe this is a bad idea. You really had to push him? He wouldn't have jumped. He hasn't even properly met you yet. Doesn't matter. My roommate can't be a $%Y. Spoilers, Wade. What the dash? Loud beep. Why in the ever-loving expletive am I censored? You can't say bad words, Wade. There's a pretty decent chance that my mom will read this, and I'd rather not have that conversation. Mama is little bit dash. Okay, back to Spy Day. Thwip and release. Thwip and okay. Okay, I got it. Yo, Spy Day. Yeah. Izuku glanced at the figure that called him out. He was wearing an outfit similar to his, but red and black, with the hilt of katanas peeking out from his back. Or should I say? Peter Parker. No. That name doesn't even sound realistic. What's your name, Wade Wilson? Yes. That was supposed to be a joke. Who are you? I'm the guy who pushed you. Wahey. You don't have a place to live, right? Hold up. How do you know that? I know a lot of things, Pete. My name isn't Peter. Wait, really? Did I get the canon wrong again? He sighed and pulled out a notebook. Now let me see here. Miles? Miguel? Izuku? Yeah. Wait. Ignore that. Yes. Izuku Yagi, now Midoriya. Well, not officially Midoriya yet, anyway. How do you? We need a place to stay, right? What do you mean actually? I do need a place to stay. Who are you? Wade Wilson, at your service. I also need a place to stay. And the plot demands we move in together. Okay, the what? All in all, this is a pretty nice place, don't ya think? Seeing as I have no other immediate choice, I'm inclined to agree. Now in casual clothes, the two walked around the apartment after picking who owned which room. They sat in the living room looking around awkwardly. They barely knew each other. Izuku barely knew Wade. Wade sat up and asked a question. You ever play Smash Brothers? With a few pointers from his new roommate, Izuku improved his suit. It could now take more of a beating. He was slowly starting to make a name for himself. He got a part-time job to earn money for rent and necessities. He worked a couple days a week. It paid well. When he wasn't busy, he was out as Spider-Man, day and night, far more than any pro hero was active, and it showed. The first few weeks that he was active, sightings of the new vigilante were plentiful. Eventually, society accepted Spider-Man as an unofficial hero. He was active at night and, unlike most vigilantes, during the day as well. It wasn't hard to see why people liked him. It isn't like Endeavor would help an old lady cross the road. He was frequently spotted at Heroes Park. Parents would watch their kids interact with the hero. His favorite thing to do was talk to kids about the pros depicted on the mural. Have you really met Endeavor? I have. Well, I wouldn't say he's a nice guy. He means well, but can be a bit hot-headed sometimes. The little boy cocked his head to upside. He didn't get the joke. His father, who was watching from a nearby bench, heard the terrible joke and poorly stifled a laugh. Okay, but why aren't you here? He asked, looking back at the artworks. I'm not actually a pro hero. You see, I'm what's called a vigilante. Can't you become a pro? The kid asked innocently. Spidey smiled under his mask. I'll think about it. Spidey chuckled, patting the kid's head. Deadpool occasionally joined him on nightly patrols. Spider-Man was very against him going out on his own, as Wade's methods tended to be lethal if left unrestrained. They worked well together, but got on each other's nerves. What do you mean, you mean little Mac? What do you think it means? You disgust me. You play Jigglypuff just to piss me off. The criminal webbed to the ceiling, an avid Smash player, piped up. I prefer Link, actual dash. Shut up. Both vigilantes immediately silenced him. And every once in a while, he'd bump into a professional hero looking to bring him in. He'd playfully banter with whoever it was, and once they attacked, he'd attempt to escape, only ever fighting back if escape wasn't an option. Hawks. Big fan. Appreciate it, Spidey. So, to what do I owe the honor? You're a vigilante, it's my duty to take you in. I see. Spidey nodded, and he put a finger to his chin. Counter offer, you give me your autograph, and I don't fight back. But how can I trust you though? Come on, please. Okay. Shut it. I'll sign something. Nice. Spider-Man reached into a pocket and pulled out a small notebook that had various signatures in it. Hawks flipped through the pages. Quite a few heroes had signed it. MT Lady, Kamui Woods, Midnight, Mirako, Ingenium, and Death Arms had all signed it. So are you some kind of player? Hawks joked. It seems the ladies like you a lot. You jealous? He teased, carefully replacing the book. Okay, it's personal now. Where are you going? Catch me if you can. You said you'll come quietly. No, I said I won't fight back. I'm running away. Spidey called back. But no matter. Hawks sighed and spread out his wings. I can fly. That is true, but I know these streets better than anyone. Spider-Man picked up speed, and Hawks, who wasn't expecting this, sped up to match the fleeing vigilante. Hawks noticed that Spider-Man was moving quick enough that making sharp turns would be hard. He smirked and dived down, stretching out a hand to grab him. Spidey suddenly zipped to the left, leaving Hawks to barely avoid a rough landing. Hawks landed and quickly got to the street Spider-Man disappeared into. He was just in time to spot the manhole cover with web attached to it, settle back into place. It was clear where Spider-Man had gone. There's enough space to fly down there, right? Hawks lifted the manhole cover and, holding his breath, dropped into the depths. From the rooftops, Spider-Man watched Hawks enter the sewers, a hand over his mouth, trying not to burst into laughter. He calmed down and smiled, making a mental note to do something nice for Hawks later. He and Eraserhead were the only ones who'd actually attempted to chase him through the sewers. Spidey let a chuckle slip through and swung away. Enko was broken inside. She'd considered retiring from hero work. Being a hero paid well, but nothing good ever seemed to come from it. When she was just starting out as a hero, she was partnered with the hero Flash Fire, Hisashi Midoriya, who had a fire-breathing quirk. When they figured out that Emerald could use her quirk to control the flames that Flash Fire spat out, they became an unstoppable duo. They grew closer to each other, and eventually got married. They were happy together. They even had kids together. A boy, then later a girl. It was nice while it lasted. On a mission to take down the symbol of evil, All for One, there was an incident, and Hisashi lost his quirk. Things spiraled out of control. She was terrified for Hisashi, who could no longer protect her like he used to. He kept smiling, as if it didn't matter that he lost his quirk. A hero friend of hers took her out drinking. She met All Might again at that bar. She woke up the next morning in the same bed with him. She was initially very regretful, and All Might apologized and tried to comfort her when she started crying. Enko would be lying if she said she missed the feeling of protection All Might gave her. It happened a few more times. Hisashi eventually found out. That led to a rough breakup. All Might once again was her pillar to cry on. After easily winning custody of the kids, she grew to despise Hisashi. She got remarried to All Might. She was happy again. But when her son was declared quirkless, she couldn't help but see her ex's face every time she looked at him. When the news broke that her son died in a fire to save someone, she finally realized that she didn't have a good reason to be angry at her son. She'd paid him no mind for almost his entire life. She'd pushed him away. She had sent him to his death. She had pushed down his dream to become a hero time and time again. He became a hero anyway. She now knew she had been a terrible mother. And the revelation stung. She unknowingly began to distance herself from Toshinori and Izumi. She began to drink out more often, and when she wasn't, she threw herself into her work, going out as Emerald. Izumi strengthened her resolve to become the greatest hero she could be. When she felt like crying, she knew that if he was here, Izuka would just smile at her and help her through it. She depended on him, and she knew it. Occasionally she'd go to his favorite places. Dagobah Beach now saw more foot traffic thanks to his efforts. Families could go out and have fun. She'd glance over all the happy faces and smile. There was a park nearby. It was nicknamed Heroes Park. This was due to the statue of All Might at the center. But at one end of the park where there was once a blank wall, Izuka had created an amazing mural of some of his favorite heroes. Endeavor, Hawks, MT Lady, and more. Izuka intended to surprise his sister with it. Hisashi, an artist himself, added more heroes to the picture every now and then. Mei had taken Izumi to see it. She chuckled when she noticed a stickman in a corner with pointy hair, labeled AM. Toshinori tried holding the family together. He told himself he had done the right thing. One for all strengthens quirks, so it just made more sense to give it to his daughter, who already had a powerful quirk. When Izuka had disappeared the next day, he reassured himself that he was right. Izuka wasn't worthy to be his successor. What kind of a hero runs from their problems? As for the beach, he'd written it off as impossible right off the bat. He focused his time and efforts on shaping Izumi to be the symbol of peace. So he's just an ass. Yeah. Wait, get out of here. You're not supposed to be in this part. You'll never take me alive. Wait, who the hell are you talking to? Oh, nothing, partner. Battle training. Izumi and the rest of Class 1A perked up. The first major hero-type activity, after the surprise quirk test on the first day, and it was led by the #1 hero, All Might himself. Follow me to the training grounds. All Might, reading from a lesson plan, randomly sorted them into groups and pitted them against each other. Izumi and Yuriko would play the part of heroes, and they'd face Itza and Bakugo, who were the villains. The two heroes stood outside waiting for All Might to give them the go-ahead. Hey, Yagi. Yeah. Izumi stopped muttering to herself and turned to Yuriko. I just wanted to say, thanks again for saving me during the entrance exam. No problem. You needed help, so I helped. Izumi said, like it was common sense. It was no problem. You looked like you needed help, so I helped. Spider-Man had said almost those exact same words. Eureka? You okay? Huh? Why yeah, I just spaced out a little, she said, scratching the back of her head. The starting announcement came, the two nodded at each other. The plan was, float to the middle of the building, the third floor, then follow the sounds of Bakugo's yelling and explosions to the bomb. After Izumi had gotten first place in the quirk test, with Bakugo not even coming close, he was eager to fight Izumi, to put her back in her place. They knew Bakugo would come for her first. That meant Itza would hang back to defend the bomb. Eureka would keep the capture tape ready, and use it to trip him up. Using their quirks, they floated up to a window on the third floor and entered through a window. As if on cue, the duo heard Bakugo propelling himself with blasts from his palm. Above us. Remember, he's coming for me, so you only have to worry about Itza. Eureka nodded and went back out the window, using her quirk on herself to float to a higher floor, just as Bakugo ran into Izumi. He was silent, but he was angry. Izumi raised an eyebrow. This was new. Bakugo normally never shut up. She kept her guard up and continued to face him. After circling each other for a moment, Bakugo suddenly let out a roar and charged Izumi. Izumi met him head-on. She sidestepped the right hook and smacked him to the ground. Izuku always said you always attacked with the right hook first. I've known you for a while, Kukin. Don't be predictable. Shut up and die, he cried, blasting a shot at her. Izumi frowned. She knew Bakugo had this really unfortunate habit of screaming out die whenever he let out a large attack. She'd taken a while to get used to it, but now Izuku was dead. The fact that Katsuki threw around the word so casually offended her. She ducked around a corner and activated her telekinesis, her eyes glowing green. She used the rubble that her opponent's blasts had created, and performed a psionic smash trademark. Bakugo, bruised from all the concrete pieces Izumi hit him with, struggled to his feet. Showing a supreme lack of foresight, he continued to use his quirk. Izumi considered continuing to punish him for creating more ammunition for her quirk, but decided against it, in favor of using one for all. She activated the second quirk and green sparks began to flow over her. Bakugo's eyes widened. Ah, that's right, you haven't seen me do this before, have you? Izumi said, smiling. She knew Bakugo was one of Izuku's bullies. Me and Izuku worked on this, and I can't wait to try it out on you. At the mention of Izuku's name, Bakugo noticeably relaxed, and Izumi saw red. You still think Izuku was weak, don't you? I know he was. Bakugo propelled himself towards Izumi, and went for another attack. Before his eyes, Izumi disappeared from view. Before he could recover, he was grabbed and smacked face first into the ground, knocking him out immediately. At that moment All Might announced their victory. Izumi grinned in triumph and turned her attention back to the unconscious form on the floor. He was stronger than you'll ever be. Wake up. Spider-Man shook Deadpool's sleeping body. Stakeout paid off. The two of them were on a rooftop late at night, waiting for something. 5 more minutes PLS, Deadpool muttered, rolling over. Wait, get up. Bad guys, 2 o'clock. Deadpool stretched and yawned. The two vigilantes silently followed the target. Spider-Man on one side of the street, Deadpool on the other. One of Wade's old connections had mentioned something about a new drug on the market. Trigger, he called it. Apparently it was a quirk booster. Something like that in the hands of thugs was devastating. It was peddled by the Yakuza. The members were identified by the masks they wore. Plage masks. They hung out in an area Yakuza thugs had been seen until they spotted one. They watched him walk until he came to what appeared to be an abandoned apartment building. Spider-Man held up a hand, and the two waited. When the man didn't come out, they got closer. They met up in front. Hey. Spider-Man began. Oh, are your spider sensibilities picking something up? Deadpool asked eagerly. Don't call them that, and yes. What the oh? You were followed. No, we were followed. Yeah, because of Yo Dash. Spider-Man. Huh? Oh hi Hawks. Deadpool waved. Hawks. Spider-Man turned to the hero. Hawks. How's my favorite chicken? I'm doing okay. Gotta say, I'm happy to see you again. Hawks grinned maliciously, and snapped his fingers. Spider-Man dodged the incoming capture weapon. Eraser. You too. Spider-Man let out a scared chuckle. Is this because of the whole sewer thing? Is there some kind of hero bounty on this case that I don't know about? Deadpool wondered out loud. Hello, Spider-Man, Eraserhead droned. Who's your friend? Was that a question? Your voice is so flat that I honestly can't tell. Hawks snickered, then cowered under Eraserhead's glare. This is Deadpool. Eraser, Deadpool. Deadpool, Eraserhead. Nice to meet ya. Deadpool greeted, then leaned closer to Spider-Man. Aren't you gonna introduce me to the chicken? Pfft, yeah, that is Hawks. I don't think I like you too. That's weird. I kinda really like you too. You two were the only ones who actually went into the sewers. Most other heroes I pulled this trick on gave up on the spot. If I was an actual villain, the sewers would probably be a prime place to hide. You guys, however, are willing to do your duty as an actual hero, which is nice. Sorry, going on and on like that is a bad habit of mine. I'm reconsidering my dislike of you. Hey, how do you know most heroes gave up on the spot? Oh, I never entered the sewers. I wouldn't do so unless absolutely necessary. I dislike you. It was his idea. Spider-Man pointed at Deadpool. No, it wasn't. Can we get back on track? Eraserhead interrupted. I assume you two were tracking the Yakuza thug. Why'd you tell em that he was Yakuza? Please, Deadpool waved a hand. We've been working our asses off to get Trigger off the streets. Trigger? Oh my god, he doesn't know what Trigger is. Wait, so what are you guys doing here? To locate the Yakuza base of operations. Spidey. I think we're doing a better job than the pros. I think so too. Just to keep you guys in the loop, the quirk-boosting drug they sell is called Trigger. I see. Wait. How do you know what it was called? You gotta learn tone, cause that didn't sound like a question to me. Allow me. Ahem. How did you know what it was called? We've been working hard. Spider-Man answered. Actually, are we going to fight? I'd rather not. Yeah, fighting would be illogical. Or irrational. I don't remember which one Eraser likes more. Hey, how did you know he likes those words? Hawks asked. The merc chuckled, ignoring the question. Deadpool, when we get back, you're going to explain how you know all that to me. Nope. Hawks and Eraser watched them argue. Hawks leaned into Eraser and whispered to him. They fight like you and Yamada. Eraser whacked Hawks in the back of the head, and Spider-Man and Deadpool stopped arguing to laugh. Can we go in now? Please. Hawks begged the group. The group infiltrated the building. Hawks ended up with Spider-Man, and Eraser teamed up with Deadpool. Aizawa began to protest, but Spidey brought up that it was logical. Team Spidey was airborne, and Team DP was grounded. Plus, if you actually want to catch us, it makes more sense to have one of each on each team, and we both know that you couldn't catch me. Eraserhead groaned and conceded. He'd learned the hard way that somehow Spider-Man wasn't affected by his quirk, so he just assumed that the quirk was a mutant type. Spider-Man definitely wasn't quirkless. The four of them effectively, for the most part, moved stealthily through the building. They met up again on the top floor. Nothing like a good workout, eh buddy? Deadpool said to his impromptu partner, who looked more tired than usual. Eraser groaned something about hate. Deadpool chuckled and reached behind his back and pulled a pillow out of nowhere. Here. You need this. Where is this your quirk? Why didn't you use it earlier? He's learning how to ask questions. Deadpool wiped away a mock tear. They grow up so fast. Nope. His power is regeneration. He's not normal. He can do things like that as long as he decides it's funny. Deadpool stashed the pillow away behind his back. Pulling his hands back into view, he was holding a cup of coffee, which he handed to Eraserhead. Hawks could have sworn he saw a glint in the tired underground hero's eyes as he grabbed the cup. How is it still hot? He asked. Don't question it. Spider-Man said. Eraser shrugged and took small sip. Before they knew it, the cup was empty. That was good coffee. Eraser said, a small satisfied smile on his face. Okay, you're gonna do that for me later. Spider-Man said. You know, I've read a lot of stories where the two of you dash, he pointed at Spider-Man and Eraserhead, are like father and son, and personally, I don't see it. Anyway, this is the last floor, and the big boss should be behind those doors, Spider-Man said, fully ignoring whatever crazy thing Wade just said. Judging from those voices, he's not the only one in there, Hawks said in a low voice. Hey, Eraser, you called for backup, right? The underground hero nodded and placed a hand on capture weapon. Good. This might get messy. Wait, Deadpool spoke up. Is this a cliffhanger? Yes. Yes it is. Izuku did all this. Well, most of it. He left it unfinished. I completed it. This is Dash. The kid always had a talent for art. Drawing heroes in those notebooks of his was something he really enjoyed. That's true. Do you need a minute? Why yeah, thanks. You know where to find me? Izumi traced her eyes over every inch of the beautiful mural of heroes that Izuku had created. Nii-chan, I am going to do all I can to be the greatest hero. Just like we promised. You want to take over the League of Villains? Shigaraki screamed. He and Kurojiri had agreed to meet with the head of the Yakuza. The location was an abandoned building. It was heavily guarded by Yakuza henchmen. The two League members there were at a huge disadvantage. I believe I was clear with my wording, Overhaul said calmly. The League as it stands is incredibly weak and unorganized. On top of that, you fools don't even have a goal other than kill All Might. So what? You NPCs don't even have a purpose. Shigaraki shot back. Overhaul frowned under his mask, and glared angrily at Shigaraki, who didn't flinch. My goals are beyond your understanding, he said slowly. Why you dash? If I may, Kurojiri interrupted his fuming boss. As he has said, we have no intention of accepting that offer. Shame, Overhaul said. Nice to see your associate is a reasonable fellow. Too bad you can't join us. Here. The Yakuza man pulled out a small box and opened it, showing the two the contents. These are 7 doses of trigger. Take them. If you ever change your mind, you know where to get more dash. Oh, I didn't know the head of the Yakuza was a doctor. Shigaraki's eyes narrowed. You. Sensei's mentioned you before. Spider-Man. Overhaul leaned forward in his seat. The spandex-wearing figure that had burst into the room bowed. Nice to see you too, Mr. Overhaul Yakuza boss sir, he joked, saluting. Shigaraki sent a questioning glare at Overhaul, who ignored him and pushed a button on the wall nearby. Another man in red and black stepped in after Spider-Man. What does a vigilante have to do to get some whiskey around here? DP, you take Big Bird. I'll take too many hands over here, Spider-Man said, before the villains could react to Deadpool. Shigaraki grabbed the case and cried for Kurojiri to get them out of there. Kurojiri's suit gave way to purple mist and Shigaraki stepped through. Oh, no you don't. Spider-Man dived into the mist and the three of them disappeared from the room. Deadpool turned to Overhaul. Just between me and you, I've always hated Sesame Street. Deadpool grinned under his mask. Man, it's been way too long since I've had any action. You're a vigilante, you say? That's a relief, Overhaul said, removing his gloves. It shouldn't take too long to cut out this tumor. Man, Spidey was right. What's with all the doctor talk? Deadpool rushed at Overhaul, who calmly placed an arm on his table, and in the blink of an eye, the desk had contorted and disfigured itself into a spike that went straight through Deadpool's chest. Deadpool shrieked and went limp. Overhaul smirked and began to put his gloves back on. Guess what? Unfortunately for you and Binge, I don't die. The merc with a mouth chuckled. Now, let's dance. What? Overhaul was taken aback. What's the matter, Big Bird? Scared you'll fall off the stage again? He dragged himself off the stake. Overhaul's eyes narrowed. He held his hands up, and the gloves he had on disintegrated into wisps in seconds. Binge, is this supposed to be my punishment? Yes. You don't beat him. You suffer until Eraser decides to erase his quirk. Wait, Eraser. Help me out. You had no idea I'd be here. I want to see you do on your own. Plus, working with you was hell. I wonder how Hawks is doing with those reinforcements. Spidey tackled Shigaraki through the purple cloud. The two fell to the ground. Spider-Man rolled a distance away from Shigaraki. Spidey hopped to his feet and glanced away the space they'd landed in. Heroes Park. It was late at night, extremely far from the building they were originally in. He'd wrenched the case away, but Shigaraki briefly laid his hands on him. In those places, his suit began to chip away. Oh, what a quirk! Spidey squealed like a child, hiding the uneasiness from his voice. A disintegration-type quirk like that was extremely dangerous. It probably was a 5-point contact activation like Okako's. This one probably needed prolonged contact to be effective, but quick and well-placed attacks would be annoying to deal with, and if combined with his partner's warp ability. A match made in hell. Hopefully, Spider Sense would be enough to keep him unharmed. Izuka watched as the villain got to his feet. The two stared at each other. It's high noon. Spider-Man joked, gripping the case of drugs tighter. You know, this is Heroes Park, and villains like me aren't supposed to be in this level. Hiding in plain sight, Spider-Man realized. He had to admit that Heroes Park was the last place he expected them to pop out. I knew it. You have a gamer gimmick. You might be even more of a man-child than I am. Spider-Man and Shigaraki began to circle each other, never breaking the stare. Izuka was doing his best to stall. His mind was running a million miles an hour. He didn't want to run and leave the villains in the park, but he had to keep the case out of their hands. And even though it was late at night, there was still a decent chance that the park would have visitors. Fighting them was the best option. Based on the fact that he was standing on the ground, the warp quirk user likely had a physical form under all that mist. He'd have to take him out first. Can I play too? Spider-Man smirked. Game start. Before Shigaraki could respond, Spider-Man charged at him, swiping at his legs, and forcing him to fall to the ground. Perfect combo. He turned his attention to the humanoid swirling form of purple mist, and activated his camouflage ability. He watched the reaction of the two villains, and forced back a chuckle. Aiming for where he believed Kurogiri's head to be, he punched at him. He put more than enough strength to knock him out, as he didn't think he'd get a second shot. The gamble succeeded, but, combined with the hours he'd been active, it took a huge toll on his remaining stamina. He had to deactivate his invisibility. Low energy. Kurogiri. Shigaraki cried out as his escape route fell to the floor. I am fine, I don't know how he did that. I'd recommend ending this now. Incoming attack. Spider-Man whipped the case containing the drugs upwards, and a split second later, a warp gate appeared in the spot the drugs were in. Shigaraki's palm came through the gate and pressed against the briefcase. It fell apart and Shigaraki grabbed one dose with 4 fingers. Acting quickly, the vigilante smacked it out of the villain's hands and it went flying into some nearby trees and shattered. The sound of the drug shattering gave Spidey an idea. As the rest of them began to fall to the ground, he began to crush them with his foot. Shigaraki began to scream, and Kurogiri acted quickly, dropping Spider-Man through a portal and warping himself and his boss away. As the vigilante fell, he saw the last one he failed to smash go through a similar portal. Mission failed. Spidey landed in the fountain at the center of the park. Groaning, he raised his head, and he came face to face with the All Might statue. He scowled at the sculpted smile and let his head drop back down with a splash. Spider-Man was at Heroes Park the next day. He met back up with Deadpool, Hawks and Eraser last night. Deadpool was naked, sitting on the ground hugging his knees and rocking back and forth. Eraser explained what had happened. He'd let Overhaul and Deadpool fight it out for a few minutes before actually joining the fight. Turns out Overhaul was trained in hand-to-hand combat. When Eraser's time limit eventually ran out, Overhaul quickly reformed the wall into a makeshift concrete blindfold, removing him from the fight. He then scattered Deadpool around the room in an explosion of blood and guts. At that point he escaped. He'd gone there to look for traces of the villains who were there the previous night. He ended up having fun. He'd started out playing with the little kids on the playground. Spinning the roundabout, or merry-go-round, for the kids, pushing them on the swings, and using his webs to make jump ropes for the more ambitious kids. As always, he was being recorded, but he didn't care. He was having fun, and so were the kids. Spider Sense. An obnoxious buzzing sound filled the air. Kids? You should probably leave. That sounds like a villain. I'm gonna kick its butt, and then we'll play later, okay? The children nodded and left. Those who refused were subsequently snatched up by their parents. A handful of insects appeared floating in the air in front of Spider-Man. Bees. It didn't seem like a big deal, but Spider Sense had never set him wrong before. Spider. Izuku did a double take. The bees were making talking noises. Me. No longer will your kind torment us. We are going to kill you. You sure you have the right guy? I know I wear red, but I'm not Winnie the Pooh. I don't steal your honey, Spider-Man joked. The cloud of insects didn't reply. Instead it began to get wilder in form. Hello. The bees suddenly lashed out at the confused vigilante. The bees split apart and began sting and scrtch at him. Spider sense overwhelmed the young wannabe hero. It was alerting him from all directions. He panicked and swatted at the air. He dashed for the fountain, hoping to dive in. He didn't make it, and he fell to the ground, the bees swarming around his body. He winced in pain. Wow, I died to bees? That's embarrassing. Yeah. The sonic blast cut through the air and dispersed the bees. They flew away in separate directions. Spider-Man. Present Mike. Spider-Man identified his surprise savior. Dude, you good? The pro-hero crouched over the vigilante. Spidey, ever the Joker, began to sing softly. When the BB stings, I simply remember my favorite things. Hey, wake up. The pro-hero stopped snickering when Spider-Man stopped responding. He pulled out his phone, and called. Shota. Get over here. Wade, get up. Kick off those Crocs. The plot needs you. Come on man, this is my me time. Missed the part where that was my problem. Eraserhead met up with Present Mike, and the two of them took Spider-Man to be healed by Recovery Girl. What happened? What did we say about Tone, Eraser? Where Eraser cleared his throat. Where the hell did you pop out from? Binge brought me here for plot reasons. What? Good use of tone. I can't tell you how I got here, but I can tell you the why. Pencilhead. Pencilhead. Eraser and Mike thought. I'm here to make sure you guys don't take off his mask. You know this guy, show Eraser? Mike asked. Yeah, he's Spider-Man's sidekick, Eraser replied, glaring at his friend for almost giving away his identity. Sidekick? You take THAMMPH. Spidey had woken up a few seconds ago and after making sure that his mask was still on, he made the executive decision to shut up his friend. Hi, Mike, Spider-Man said, sitting on the edge of the cot. Thanks for that. Thank Eraser. He's the one that asked me to keep an eye on you. Present Mike replied jovially, and Eraser glared at him again. I wasn't supposed to tell him that, was I? Too late. Eraser sighed and turned to Spider-Man. What the hell was that? I don't know. Don't look at me like that. You're in timeout. Spider-Man said. Actually, I might have an idea. It's crazy, but it's the only one I've got. Shoot. So last night, like I told you, I fought those two villains in the park. One of the villain's quirk is to decay objects by touch with all 5 of his fingertips. From experience, I can tell you that it works on both organic and inorganic substances. Ouch. Present Mike said. Yeah. So, in our little tussle, he ended up using the quirk on the case that had the drugs in M. That's when I decided to cut my losses and destroy the drugs. I smacked one out of his hands, and it went flying into a tree, where it shattered. I stomped on a few, but they escaped with a couple. Deadpool sat cross-armed in the corner, tapping out Morse code on his seat. Dash. 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 Slash. 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 Dash. Dot. Meanwhile, Eraser responded to Spider-Man. You told me they escaped with 1 or 2, and you'd scope out the park for any leads on why the 2 warped to the park, which is why I asked Present Mike to keep an eye on the park. Okay, and we're all caught up, Present Mike interjected. But how does this explain why bees attacked him? The shot of trigger that smashed into a tree. I think that's the first result of animal testing. Whoa. But how do we deal with it? Hey DP. The former merc stopped slandering me in Morse code and looked up. We're going shopping. Spider-Man grabbed his friend and hopped out the window. Thanks again, Mike. Hey. He's a vigilante we're meant to capture, right? Eraser remembered. Forget that. Mike said, breaking out in a cold sweat and running off. Joe is gonna kill us for letting him leave. Eraser's face paled slightly at the thought. Hey, Yagi, are you okay? Tsuyu asked her friend. You've been down ever since the battle training. Izumi's friends were concerned. All Might's class a few days ago was the objectively the most fun thing that had happened that week. Izumi had revealed to the class that All Might was her father, which meant that she should have been happier than most. But ever since her fight, the usually bouncy girl that was fun to talk to was now quiet and didn't say more than a couple sentences at a time. "Yeah, I've noticed you've been quiet. Is something the matter?" Yurarika added. "Why yeah. Sorry," Izumi apologized. "It's just. Bakugo said something mean about my older brother." Yurarika frowned. "Your older brother?" Tsuyu asked. "Yeah. Remember the news about the fire at F.E.A.S.T? Ribbit didn't All Might save everyone in there. He missed one. My brother went in to save the last person, which he did, but he didn't make it out." "That was your brother?" Yayorozu asked, remembering the news article she'd read. "To lay down your life for another without hesitation, that is the mark of a true hero." "Thank you, Yaomomo. Hold on, didn't the news say he was quirkless?" Izumi glared at Kaminari, one for all activated and lighting up her skin in sparks. The electric quirk user cowered under her angry stare. "That was actually even more heroic of him," Jiro said, making a mental note to smack Kaminari in the head. "Thanks, Jiro," Izumi said, calming down and deactivating the quirk. "You grew up with Bakugo? So, he must have met your brother, right?" Shiro asked. Izumi nodded, not making eye contact. "I knew it." Kaminari exclaimed, "His personality is garbage fire." "So what are we calling it?" Izuku asked, opening up a speaker. "Does it need a name?" Wade replied, looking under the couch. "It's literally just a swarm of bees." "You know, I hate it when people misuse that word," Izuku complained, swapping out the magnets. "Me too. But it's literally a swarm of bees," Wade pointed out, going to the kitchen, and returning with a broom. "Swarm it is," Izuku declared, tweaking the suspensions. Wade sighed and fished out his blue Crocs from under the couch using the broom. Placing the broom in a corner, he put the Crocs on, and went over to see what his roommate was doing. "So you're just a regular MacGyver type, aren't you? Hand me that screwdriver." Izuku closed the case and held up the finished device. "Done. Ha. Swarm isn't gonna know what hit him. Wait, now. But dash. Yeah. You don't have to come with." Izuku waved him off, putting his mask back on. "Just keep yourself and those Crocs out of the spaces we share, yeah?" Spider-Man leapt out the window, leaving Wade to his special shoes, and swung to Heroes Park based on his last encounter with the swarm. He could tell that the bees would do anything to kill him. His spider sense went haywire. Swarm was nearing a child. The mother wasn't that far off, and she was panicking. She clearly had no idea what to do, so Spidey landed between the bees and called out to the insect cloud. "Hey Swarm. I got a question for ya." The bees didn't reply in words, they elected to swoop at him. Spider-Man was ready this time. He led the cloud away from the populated area. When the bees were away from the people, Spider-Man landed and asked his question. "Yeah, like jazz." Spider-Man activated the device and tossed it at Swarm, and the bees' constant buzzing became a horrible shriek as they struggled to keep a coherent form. The sound they made was really off-putting. Spidey winced but grinned under his mask when he saw the bees begin to break off from the form. All of a sudden, the form exploded as bees flew in each and every direction. "Glad that's over. Might never look at a jar of honey the same again." Spider-Man stretched and swung back to the apartment. "Wish Hawks was here. I had this line about the birds and the bees I wanted to use." The purple bee struggled through the air. It barely had enough energy to maintain its altitude, let alone call upon another hive. All it needed was a beautiful flower to die on. It flew on, dropping ever closer to the dirt. This was it. Kurojiri. "I found it." As the bee fell, it landed in a palm. The hand that caught it hadn't seen moisture for the past decade, it seemed. "Let's get back." Bee in hand, the villains warped away. The new vigilante had made a splash. He was head and shoulders above other vigilantes in skill, and with his colorful costume and childish humor, he had gotten quite popular. Unlike most vigilantes, Spider-Man worked in broad daylight, so it wasn't uncommon to see him swinging through the air, doing acrobatic tricks, and all around just having the time of his life. As a result of his daytime shenanigans, every once in a while, he'd be recorded in action and posted online, trending. And with each trend, comes haters. Izuka scrolled through the comments on a new video of him swinging. There were more positive comments than hate, but it still got to him. One interaction between commenters caught his eye. Dude, why are you hating on him? SM is a pretty cool guy. And how would you know that? Don't defend him, let him do it himself. Do it myself? You know, that idea doesn't seem 100% terrible, Izuka thought. Wade suddenly burst into the room. Do it. Wade? Where'd you come from? Do it quickly before the POV changes. What the hell are you talking about? Crap. Hurry. No 0000000 dash. We've seen all these clips, Eureka. They're all the same, anyway, Azui complained. Fine, hold on, I'll sort by new, Eureka huffed. Why are you such a big fan of this guy anyway? Jiro asked. He saved me months ago, before we started at UA. I still find it hard to believe that you met him before he was in costume, Izumi said. Shut up. Hey, look. New Spider-Man account. Real_Spider-Man? Seems legit. Hagakure said sarcastically, looking over Eureka's shoulder. The account is live streaming? That's new. 900-foot high QA. Yayo Rosa read out the stream title. Let's watch it, I'm curious. The person streaming came face to face with the camera. It appeared to be Spider-Man's mask, with the sky in the background. Is this thing on? Won't lie, that's a good cosplay, Hagakure said. Eureka shushed her. Okay, there are a few people watching, let's get started. The tops of buildings came into view. Whoa, he's really high up. Jiro exclaimed. What does he want to get started? Izumi wondered. Before anyone could answer her, Spider-Man leaped off the building and began to dive. The girls screamed. Yayo Rosa turned green. The ground was approaching at an alarming speed. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Spider-Man, inches away from the ground, swung out of the nosedive and catapulted himself into the air. He's crazy. I'm gonna throw up. That was awesome. What is this commotion? It's unbecoming of future heroes. Shut up, Itza. Spider-Man is live streaming himself swinging. Really? Kaminari asked. Tsuyu grabbed the remote and put it on the TV. Oh. I just saw the viewer count drop. That little stunt musta scared them off. Spider-Man said. If you couldn't tell, I'm streaming live from a phone. I can also see the comments. I can answer a few questions you might have. How can he read and swing at the same time? Itza asked. Flex Tape Hero asks, how can I read and swing at the same time? Everyone glanced at Zero, who was holding a phone. I have a hard time swinging, leave me alone. Swinging was a bit tricky at first, Spidey admitted. But now, it comes naturally, like, breathing. I've gotten used to it, I guess. I don't really think too hard about it. Wow. I'm nowhere near his level. I gotta train harder. Pink Alien Queen asks, am I single? What? I can't have been the only one thinking that. Not going to answer that. Spider-Man suddenly let go of the phone. The camera, now beginning to descend rapidly, captured Spider-Man swinging away as if nothing happened. The chat went wild, somehow trying to get the webhead's attention. Eureka, you idiot, he can't read the messages you're sending. Izumi cried, stopping her friend from abusing the keyboard. She stopped furiously tapping at the screen and looked up. A sheepish, ashamed look was on her face. She watched the feed and damn near passed out when Spider-Man disappeared from view. The phone fell faster and was now spinning out of control, getting ever closer to the cold, hard concrete. I guess that's the end of that, Zero said. The phone suddenly halted and zipped back upwards. Spidey grabbed it and pointed the camera at himself. Peekaboo, he chuckled. You can just hear the dumb smile he has on his face, Ajiro said, sweat dropping. Okay, back to questions, he said, grinning under the mask. Chimaron asks, why be a vigilante? A few reasons. But there is one that sticks out. Someone important to me got hurt, because I didn't help when I could. They almost died. So now, I've made a promise to myself to always help when I can. The fact that he's answering questions with his phone in one hand while tempting fate like this astounds me. Yaomomo said, after Spidey executed a particularly daredevil stunt. After the stunt when he dropped his phone, I'm kinda used to it now. You're green, Jiro, stop lying, Tsuyudia panned. Cats and Coffee asks, why am I streaming? It was a spur of the moment thing. I wanted to create an official social media account. Going live and showing off was the best way to prove that this account is the real deal. I guess that makes sense. Azui said, nodding. Who was the first person you ever saved? Asks Uravite. Hey, isn't that Uraraka's hero name? Izumi pointed out. Everyone looked at her. She was blushing furiously and staring intently at the screen. The first person I ever saved was a girl being held hostage by two criminals on the run. I knocked the jerks out, and talked to her for a while. She told me she wanted to be a hero, and her hero name would be Uravite. Hope you got into U.A. Can't wait to meet you in the field, Uravite. Yeah. Uraraka pumped her fists in the air. A loud explosion came from the TV coming from just off screen. Whoop, gotta go. See you all next week. Real_Spider-Man out. The stream ended. I told you, haha, oh my god, he remembers me. Okay, you have to tell us what happened. Give us the deets. Ashido said. It sounds like you love him, Uraraka, Izumi teased. Wah. And no I don't. You said you let him call you by your first name. Hagakure pointed out eagerly. He did that by accident. But you told him it was okay. He saved my life, Izumi. So did I. It was a school exam. I'd have been fine. Oomph. I had a gun to my head. Yeah, whatever. You fell in love, just admit it, Ashido joined in to tease Uraraka. You probably didn't want him to leave. I bet you asked him to stay, Izumi added. Did you actually ask him to stay? Izumi asked. I hate you. Friendship over, Uraraka said, pouting. So is Spider-Man your best friend now? Stop it. Uraraka covered her blushing face and ran away. I can hear you blushing from here. Izumi called at her. Arg. Spider-Man swung through the rooftops, going out at night to break out his repaired suit. Swarm really did a number on me. Glad that's over. A pedestrian called out his name. He turned and waved. She asked for a selfie. He took the selfie. Spider-Man was beginning to grow a fan base. He decided to refer to his fans as the Spy-Day Squad. It was catchy. He swung up into the air. It was a still night. He bounced between the buildings, grateful for the lack of crime. Wait. What was that sound? It sounded like someone was crying. Remembering the kind passerby that approached him when he was crying in the street, he decided to pay the act forward. He swung towards the sobs. They were coming from a rooftop. Was someone about to commit suicide? He swung faster. He could see the source of the crying now. Someone was standing on the edge. They had one foot in the air. The person began to weep harder. I'm a failure. He heard them say, just before they stepped off. Spider-Man swooped in and caught her, just before she hit the ground. He carried her back to the rooftop she fell from. He set her down gently and got a good look at her. He suppressed a gasp when he realized who it was. Emerald. Enko. Why'd you stop me? Why did he stop her? He was asking himself the same thing. It's what I do, he replied, his voice devoid of anger. This wasn't the time to be mad. His mother had just tried to commit suicide. Something was definitely wrong. Emerald? You're a hero, right? Why would you want to do that? I can't be a hero. I'm a terrible person. I'm a failure. She began to stumble towards the edge again. Spider-Man grabbed her and sat her down, kicking the empty wine bottle out of the way. She was clearly drunk. Izuku had never seen his mother so broken, so vulnerable. He still hadn't forgiven her for the years of neglect and borderline abuse he'd gone through. He wanted nothing more than to leave and never see her again. But to imagine her crying on a rooftop, curled up with a bottle. Why do you think you're a failure? He asked, sitting down next to her. I killed my son. Even if he didn't die, he'd still hate me. She broke down again. Spider-Man awkwardly patted her back. He was at a loss. At least it wasn't Wade that found her. He shuddered at the thought. Do you want to talk about it? He asked slowly. Drinking doesn't help. It helps with the pee pain, she stuttered incoherently. You just tried to kill yourself. It doesn't help. Spidey stated firmly. Do you want to talk about it? That helps. I was a terrible mother to my son, if I can even still claim that he was even my son. She choked down a sob and continued. I made a habit of knocking him down for something that wasn't his fault. I pushed him away. I didn't even realize what I was doing until he left. God, I barely remember what his voice sounds like. That was sad, but convenient. He eventually left the house, the hate in his eyes. Then he went to stay with my ex. Her ex? Mr. Midoriya? This was big news to Izuku. He was happy. But then, he dash. It's okay. You don't have to say. Do you feel a bit better? Letting out your feelings is always a better idea. I thank you. You can thank me by not dying. You still have All Might, and a kid in UA, right? Stop pushing away the family you have left. That went about as well as I could have wanted, Izuku said, swinging home after ending another live stream. His page was getting a ton of activity. Maybe next time I'll respond to a negative message, he thought, climbing into his apartment window. Wait. You here? He called out, pulling off his mask. His roommate peeked his head out a door. Yo. I caught the stream, he said. So when were you going to tell me about your girlfriend? Why, I barely know her, Izuku shot back, his cheeks heating up. BS. Wade waved a phone in the air. You're already friends. Didn't I make my friends list private? How do you know that? This is one of your phones. Gimme that. Izuku snatched the device with a web. I haven't reported you because you said you'll leave crime behind. I did. I haven't done a single crime for over 2 months. Stealing is a crime, Wade. They stared at each other in silence for a moment. Why, you're joking, right? He asked. Izuku swore under his breath. I swear, if I could afford rent on my own, I'd kick you out. Don't lie, you love me? I really don't. Consider yourself friend-zoned. Wade let out a dramatic gasp and went back into his room. I need a shower, Izuku sighed. Wade Wilson was a mercenary on the run who'd fled the US. He wanted to turn over a new leaf and was staying with Midoriya on the condition that he'd commit no crimes, but he didn't have a great grasp on the actual laws he was meant to abide by. That's not my fault. It most definitely is. Is not. It is. Listen man, you wanna go? What? You know what? I'll just beat your ass. Wade, I swear, come near me, and I'll delete you from this story. You wouldn't. Wanna bet? The backspace key is right there. It would be so easy. Screw you. Readers, ignore the fourth wall breaking idiot. Oh, that is it. Time to kick your posterior. Let's push the limits of that healing factor. Hold on. Changes POV with malicious intent. Eureka, what the hell? Ashido said, bursting into her friend's room, and seeing her clutching her phone and rolling around on the ground. I sent a friend request and he accepted it and no impanican gondont no wadada please help. What? Eureka almost threw her phone at her. Ashido took one look at the screen and immediately saw the problem. Girls, get in here, she shouted into the hallway. Izumi, Hagakure, Jiro, and Yayo Rosa poured into Eureka's room. What is it? Did someone get a boyfriend? Hagakure asked. If everything goes well, and the stars align, my Abe. Ashido said. What's with Eureka? Jiro asked. You'll never believe this. Ashido showed them Eureka's phone. What was the general reaction of the girls? After they calmed each other down, they discussed Eureka's plan of action. I can't date Spider-Man. He's basically a celebrity. He's probably already with someone. That's likely, Tsuyu said bluntly. Eureka nodded solemnly. You'll never know until you try, Mina said, grinning madly and snatching up Eureka's phone. Ashido, what are you doing? Izumi asked. Helping our friend, she said simply. She handed the phone back to Eureka. You'll thank me later. What did you do? She sent a message to him, right? Jiro asked. Mina nodded. What did she say? Ashido, you have to stop playing matchmaker, Hagakure scolded her pink-skinned friend. I just sent hi. That's all, she defended herself. Eureka would have never mustered the courage to send anything herself. Ashido said, earning herself a punch from Eureka. Ding. Did he reply already? Izumi said, shocked. That was quick. He did Eureka stared at the screen. Hey, Eurovite. Did you and your friend get into UA? Your friend? Who's he talking about? Kurotsuyu asked. Yurarika scratched the back of her head. Izumi. Me? Why? When we met, he asked me why I wanted to be a hero, and I said because I wanted to be like your brother, and to help you fulfill his promise, Yurarika admitted. Thank you, Yurarika. He would have liked you. Sorry for bringing it up. It's fine, I'm just having trouble coming to terms with it. Izumi said, with a shaky smile. Go ahead and reply. Oh okay. We did get into UA. Both of us. That's great. If you don't mind me asking, how's your friend doing? She's doing better. Happy to hear that. Hi Mr. Spider-Man, are you single? I'm so sorry, my friends are the worst. LMAO, don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure your friends aren't the worst. Yes they are. My roommate is a former criminal. My friends are probably still worse. No, my guy has bad habits. Oh yeah? Like what? I'm not legally obligated to answer that question. I win. Whatever. I gotta go, Oka. TTYL. Oka, I like it, she thought. TTYL? Talk to you later? Later. Yurarika let out a small chirp of joy. So, how'd it go? You're all still here? Yeah. You've been sitting in the corner with a smile on your face, Yayorozu told her. So I assume it went well. And no. It went badly. Yurarika exclaimed, attempting to get her girls off her case. They didn't buy it. They all stared at her quickly reddening face. Fine. He's nice. Suo, what did you two talk about? Yurarika thought for a while and an evil grin spread across her face. I've decided that's private. Whyyyyyy. Mina whined. You have only yourself to blame. But I didn't do anything. You snatched my phone and asked him if he's single. That was past Mina. I can't be held accountable for her actions. Yurarika ignored her and rolled her eyes. That's still a no, she stated. Fine, just let us know when the two of you decide on a first date. Yurarika flushed red and kicked Mina and the rest of the girls out of the room. Izuku laid in his room, staring at the ceiling. The conversation he'd had with Sayama a couple nights ago had been on his mind for a while. Stop pushing away the family you have left. He sat up in bed. There was someone he had to see. Life at the comic book shop was business as usual, albeit a bit slower. Hisashi had gotten used to seeing Izuku show up on an almost daily basis, talking eagerly about the stories he'd read, fiction and non-fiction alike. He'd sometimes tell the kid old storied from his time as a pro. Izuku would be eagerly taking notes and pestering him to reveal what hero he was talking about, or even if the stories were true tales at all. Nowadays, only a handful of people walked through those doors a week. Enough to pay the bills, but the days began to blur together. The little bell above the door rang, signifying a new customer. Hisashi exhaled and put a smile on his face, and looked towards the door. The figure that just entered was dressed in a jeans and a hoodie, and a Spider-Man mask. Hisashi's smile became genuine. This was probably a fan in a costume looking for a comic written about his favorite hero. Spider-Man noticed the man staring at him and waved. Hi, how can I help you? The fan was quiet for a while after his question, as if deciding what to say. You've helped me enough, Mr. Midoriya. Thanks for everything. Hisashi froze. He knew that voice. Izuku. The figure slowly removed his mask. It was him. Izuku, and he smiled shakily and waved again. Hisashi slowly shook himself out his stupor and began to get closer to the kid and captured him in a bone-crushing hug. Izuku returned the gesture, hugging the man back. No words necessary. Oh, that is heartwarming. Hisashi and Izuku turned towards the door. Wade Wilson, in costume, stood there with a grin on his face, and his hands clasped over his chest. The two glared at him. Did I spoil the moment? What do you think? Izuku almost yelled at him. Kid, who's that? That is my partner/roommate. Partner? Hold on. Yep. You're looking at your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Izuku chuckled. We have a lot to talk about. He sounds so much like him. What? Oh. It's nothing. I'm just watching a Spy Day video. Yurika shot her a questioning look. He's your favorite hero now, right? And no, it's 13. That's cool. Are you sure everything's okay? You usually tease me a lot more than that. Do you want me to tease you? Izumi snapped at her. Yurika retreated. No, sorry. She apologized. No, don't apologize. Izumi sighed. I'm just a little tense right now. Do you want to talk about it? Yurika asked carefully. I know I shouldn't, but I somewhat blame my parents for my brother's death. Izumi had confided in Yurika what had happened, and she was her shoulder to cry on. My mom just sent me a message. She wants to talk to me about Izuku. I'm not sure why. Do you want to? I don't know. It feels far too late. What do you think I should do? I think you should. Maybe you need to hear what she has to say. And, Yurika paused. I'm not sure how to say this, avoiding her won't help. Izumi got what she was saying. Don't push away the family you've got left. She had a point. I think I'll talk with her. Thanks. Izuku was having a heated internal debate with himself. Should he let Izumi know he was alive and well? He didn't think she'd be able to keep it to herself though. It all gotten so complicated so quickly. The plan was to train his newfound powers, surprise her with them. Funny how the universe conspired against him. It all went down so fast. He wanted to step in and stop the villain, but he'd spotted his All Might in his deflated form. The sight had angered him. Let the number one hero handle it, he'd thought. As a result, Mr. Midoriya got hurt. And Izuku Yagi had died. The events had really roughed up what was left of his mental health. He knew one thing for sure. He would always help someone in need. No matter the cost. It was his responsibility. Spider-Man was swinging through the air, trying to clear his mind. His danger sense went off. He glanced down to see a little girl running in the street. She had a little horn on her forehead, and she was dressed in what looked like a dirty pillowcase. She was clearly terrified, glancing behind her every few seconds. She nearly ran into the busy road. Izuku acted quickly and yanked her out of the way of an oncoming vehicle. Hey, don't you know to look both ways before you cross the street, he said. The girl began to struggle but soon embraced the aura of calm and safety that the vigilante emanated. She held Spy Day, and didn't stop shaking. Izuku frowned under the mask. It's alright kid, just breathe, he said, trying to get the girl to calm down. Please, don't go, he's after me, help me, don't go. Her quiet begging hit the vigilante hard. Her words mirrored his sister's, on the night he'd left home. He hugged the girl. Don't worry, kid. I'll help you. He held her and didn't move until she'd calmed down and stopped shaking. He slowly ended the hug, and got a good look at the girl. She was dressed in rags, and her arms and legs were covered in bandages. His frown deepened. What's your name? Eri. Well Eri, I'm Spider-Man. And I'll do my best to keep you safe. As he was trying to figure out what to do with the scared girl, his spider sense tingled. He looked up. A man in a beak-shaped mask was standing there. Spider-Man recognized who it was immediately. Kai Chisaki, Overhaul. Ah. There you are, Eri. Come along now. Stop bothering the hero. It kinda ruled that the villain acknowledged him as a hero. Spider-Man shook those thoughts from his head. He got up, holding the girl in one arm, and faced the man. You know this girl? You mind explaining these bandages? She's my daughter. She can be quite clumsy at times. Why is she shaking, Doc? Listen, Bug. If you do not get out of my way, I will not hesitate to kill you. Eri. No. Spidey spat. He held the girl tighter. Kid, I promise, I will do all I can to protect you. Chisaki growled and yanked off his gloves, and he placed a palm on the concrete. Spider-Man's escape route was cut off in a second. Eri, when we get back, you will be punished. The girl squirmed in his arms, and although Overhaul couldn't see Spider-Man's eyes, he felt the vigilante's angry glare. Dude. Back. The hell off. Spider-Man threw a punch at Overhaul. Green electricity emanated off his fist and arced into the villain, frying his nervous system and knocking him out. Bioelectricity? Check. Overhaul lay lifeless on the ground. Spider-Man stared at his fist, then back at the villain on the ground. He heard voices. Looking up, he saw a few more men in plague masks. He took Eri and left. He refused to put the girl in any more danger. He returned to his flat, where he had laid the girl in his bed. Luckily, Wade wasn't around. He climbed in the window, and watched her sleep. Understandably, she was exhausted. She'd been going through this since she turned 4, maybe even before that. Spider-Man searched the net for any missing kids reports. She didn't match any description. He ended up accessing government files. Nothing. As far as the world was concerned, she didn't exist. Just like how the quirkless didn't exist. He sat at the girl's side. She was asleep. What do I do with her? He wondered aloud. If I take her to the authorities, I have to say how I came across her, and then Spider-Man no more. She started to stir. She opened her eyes and looked around. She sat upright, a terrified look on her face. Izuku noticed this and patted her head softly. It's alright kid, Overhaul can't hurt you anymore. Eri didn't stop shaking, however. Izuku reached into his pocket, pulled out his mask and put it on. Remember me? Eri burst into tears and latched onto Izuku. I said I'll keep you safe, and believe me, I will. Spider-Man just held the girl, letting her cry all her sufferings into his chest. When she finally calmed down, he wiped away her tears. Spider-Man. Yeah, Eri. Why did you save me? If I had a nickel for every time someone asked me that, I'd have 2 nickels. Not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice, Izuku thought. Why would you ask me that, Eri? Oh, Overhaul always said ththa. You know what? It doesn't matter what he said. He's a big poopy head. Eri giggled. So, Overhaul isn't your dad. Do you have any idea who your parents are? I think Overhaul was supposed to be my new father. Nope. Poopy heads can't be fathers, Izuku said, in a serious voice, causing Eri to giggle again. A father is someone who takes care of you, someone that picks you up when you fall down. Someone that would do anything for you. Someone that loves you and wants to make you smile. Did Overhaul do any of that for you? No. See? Now, say it as loud as you can. Overhaul is a big poopy head. They both laughed. Spider-Man. Yes, Eri. See, can you be my new papa? Eri. I am sorry. No. Wait. Why do you want me to be your papa? Because you said a father is someone who takes care of you, and would do anything to make you smile, and you already do that for me. But. Eri used puppy dog eyes. It's very effective. My name is Izuku. Midoriya, and I'll be your new dad. Eri was a joy to have around. True to his word, he did his best to act as a father to the young girl. When Wade returned home, he did the courtesy of introducing the two, then promptly left, refusing to let Eri and Deadpool spend any amount of time together. He took her to meet Hisashi and Mei. When he went to the Midoriya household, he was immediately made aware that Hisashi hadn't told his sister about him yet. When Hisashi let him and Eri in, Mei caught sight of the Spider-Man carrying Eri in. Gasped in shock. Felt weak and went into a daze. Nearly fainted/had a heart attack. Then she pulled herself together. And attacked it to save the little girl. In that order. Luckily, Hisashi grabbed her before she could reach Izuku and Eri. The little girl was a little shaken, but Izuku chuckled and softly ran his fingers through her hair, calming her down. Who are you? Let go of the girl. Who am I? You don't know? Oh. Izuku hung his head. Eri looked up at him and pumped her fists. Don't be sad, Mr. Izuku. I know who you are. Spider-Man ruffled her hair again, then he pulled off his mask, stunning the woman, who stopped struggling in Hisashi's grip. While she was frozen, Izuku took the chance to do introductions. Eri, the nice lady is. Izuku thought for a while. Your great Aunt Mei. She glared at him. You can just call her Aunt Mei, he added quickly. Her gaze softened. Like I do. Mei's eyes began to well up with tears. Izuku let Eri down and stretched out his arms. Mei embraced him in a hug and began to cry happy tears. Eri looked at the duo in confusion. Hisashi chuckled and explained to her. They're really happy to see each other. But she's crying. People sometimes cry because they're happy, not just because they're sad. Hisashi Mei said in a sing-song voice. He trembled in fear. Why yeah. Did you know Izuku was alive before today, she asked. a sweet smile on her lips. "Why yes," he answered, unsure of his fate. Mei snapped and lunged at him. Hisashi screamed in fear and dashed away. Izuku chuckled and took Eri to the kitchen to make a snack for her. She watched the Midoriya siblings run around their living room, and she giggled. "Those two are sister and brother," Izuku told Eri. "I have a sister. She'd be your Aunt Izumi." Eri, who had now come to appreciate Hisashi and Mei, was excited at the prospect of a new family member. "We can't go see her right now, though." Eri nodded, but was a little disappointed. "Don't worry though, I'll tell you all about her." Is hero work worth it? That was out of nowhere. Why? No reason. Are you having second thoughts? Maybe. That's fair. Being a hero is dangerous. From what I hear, it pays really well though. Let me rephrase my question. What makes it worth it to you? You don't get paid, right? Jab at my lack of stable income aside. I just really want to keep people safe. For me it's that simple. I caught a kid's balloon. And he picture of me as a thank you. Things like that make it worth it. Okay. You're obviously not convinced. I actually started out wanting to be a hero like All Might. I would save everyone with a smile. If I'm being honest. You're one of the things that is keeping me at it. What? When I saved you. You didn't want me to leave because you felt safe. That was the most reassuring thing that happened that day. If I do this and I can make people feel safe. Then it's worth facing death every single day. Wow. Thanks. No problem. I'm the absolute worst person to ask this question though. But I appreciate that you asked me. You type like a child. You try and punctuate while in the air. Are you swinging right now? Oh look, is that a villain? Bioka Ttyl. Didn't expect to be tackled out of midair by a leopard print maniac, Spider-Man muttered to himself, putting away his phone and facing the form that had grounded him. The man was wearing dark clothes, the most distinct things were the two scarves he had on. One was blood red, and the other was leopard print. "So what's your deal?" Spidey asked. The man didn't reply, instead lunged at the young vigilante. Spider-Man, however, had learned to trust more in his spider sense. He didn't want a repeat of what Swarm did to him. He effortlessly weaved out of the way of all the attacks the gruff assailant launched at him. The man grunted and retreated. Are you going to tell me why you're doing this?" The attacker, still not saying a word, drew a short blade. "I guess that's a no." Spidey dodged, sidestepped, and ducked out of the way of the swipes and stabs. He could tell that the attacker, whoever he was skilled with a blade. The attacker thought he was skilled as well, and was starting to get frustrated with the vigilante. "Stay still. It speaks." Spider-Man quipped, secretly glad that his attacker could talk. The attacker fell back into silence as he unsheathed a longer sword. "Come on man, make this emotionally fulfilling for me. Let's talk, banter, anything." The attacker threw the short dagger he'd used previously at Spider-Man, planning to use that as a distraction, while he'd attack with the longer sword. Spider-Man, anticipating the attack, even without his spider sense, countered the attack by sidestepping, and slamming the man into a wall, where he webbed him in place. I'm still not sure what you are," Spider-Man said, while he had breathing room. "I can't tell if you're a villain, or just really stupid. Maybe both, now that I think about it." "Neither. I am Kraven, the one known as the Hero Hunter," the man replied. "Hero Hunter? I'm a vigilante. What you hassling me for? I hunt the ones that have no honor." That is not normal. That's the kinda thing people say on TV. Spider-Man pointed out. "Hold up. Wait a minute, am I being recorded? If so, I want my cut of the profits." Kraven roared, and cut himself out of the web. He launched at the hero again, a feral look on his face. "No honor?" Spider-Man wondered, still dodging the attacks. Kraven answered eagerly with a glint in his eye. "Honor is everything. The fake heroes dash." "I'ma stop you right there," Spider-Man interrupted the monologue he knew was coming. "I've heard all that jazz before. Why are you attacking me? You clearly don't consider me a fake hero, which means a lot to me by the way, thanks, so what gives? You're chatty and annoying. Craven ignored the question, and muttered to himself, you're lucky he wants you alive. If it was up to me, you'd be dead. Did someone pay you to attack me? That doesn't sound very honorable of you. Silence. Like I said, I fight the ones who can put up a fight. If I can get compensated for my efforts, so be it. So you are getting paid? The vigilante groaned internally. Dodging a swipe and landing on the wall, out of Craven's reach, he asked, you mind telling me who your sponsor is? Come down here and fight me like a man. If you couldn't tell, Spider-Man wasn't taking this Craven fellow seriously. I don't suppose I could convince you to come up here and fight like a spider. In response, Craven chucked a few knives at the vigilante, who shifted out of the way, letting the knives embed themselves in the brick. Was it Overhaul that paid you? You know what, don't bother answering. So you know who's bankrolled this? No matter. See, you say that, Spidey replied. But do you know why he's done this? A dash. I don't care. You're going to say something about honor again. I'll just tell you. He experimented on a child. I've saved that child, effectively halting the production of Yakuza brand quirk modifiers. He's sent you to capture me, fat chance, by the way, so I can return his cure. Am I right, or am I right? Craven's eyes widened at Spider-Man's use of the word cure. Overhaul had let that word slip quite a few times in their brief meetings. The target was telling the complete truth. Overhaul was dishonorable. Craven roared in anger and threw down his sword. The weapon clattered on the ground. I must leave. I cannot continue. Craven said. He then glared at Spider-Man. You are a fascinating opponent, Spider-Man. This will not be our last dance. Spider-Man watched as the man disappeared into the shadows. So close to being good news, he muttered to himself. Hawks and Spider-Man snickered, confusing the bunny hero, Mirako. What's with you two? She asked. And why are you recording? SHHHHH. Spider-Man put his finger to his mouth. Be quiet. I'm hunting wabbits. He. Mirako recognized the impression immediately, and Spidey swore he could see the veins in her forehead. He hastily booked it when Spider-Sense began to hum at the back of his head. Hawks flew after him and the two relaxed on a rooftop when they thought they were far enough away. Panting heavily, they looked at each other for a moment, then they burst into undignified laughter. Spider-Sense. The vigilante shut up, and the pro slowly stopped laughing. Hawks was about to ask what was wrong when they both felt Mirako's angry aura. Spider-Man ducked a kick from the bunny hero, and instead of asking himself how on earth she found them, he elected to run away, and on his way out, he called back. It was Hawks' idea. Hey! Get back here! Hawks cried. Traitor! Damn, I wish I could post these, Izuku thought to himself, pocketing his phone as he swung away. He whiffed his next web shot when he heard Hawks shrieking. He laughed so hard. Izuku, Eri, and Wade were at the mall, out shopping. The little girl was perpetually gasping in awe, looking at all the amazing things in the windows from her spot perched on her father's shoulders. See anything you like? Wade asked the girl. Eri nodded eagerly. You like everything you see, don't you? Izuku chuckled. Eri giggled and nodded again. She was around the vigilante pair almost all the time and loved everything about them. She watched them laze about the house. She watched them fight and argue. She covered her ears on karaoke night at the Midoriya's whenever Wade was singing, but was enraptured by her father's voice. The pair of them were slowly teaching her how to play Smash Brothers. She couldn't decide which character to pick, so Wade and Izuku explained what each fighter was like. Bowser, big fire-breathing turtle. Ice climbers, the power of friendship. Kirby, you can be anything you want. Little Mac, he punches things dash. Can I try that one? Eri spoke up, and Izuku's smile lit up. Lil Mac? Sure. And no, the pink one. Kirby. Yeah, go ahead. Izuku said, with significantly less enthusiasm. You can try Little Mac out later, he added, muttering under his breath. Back at the mall, Eri was staring at a promotional image for a winter set of clothes. She was so engrossed in the picture. Izuku pointed at one part of it. That is a snowman. It's made by putting really big snowballs together. Eri made a sound of interest, and Izuku continued. You've seen rain before, right? In the winter time, when it gets really cold, the water that usually falls from the sky as rain freezes, and falls as ice instead. It's called snow. Each drop of snow is called a snowflake. If you gather a bunch of snowflakes together, you can roll them up into a ball. Snowballs. Eri asked. Yup. Snowballs can be made as big as you can possible. When winter time rolls around, we'll go out, and we'll have so much fun. Dad? Why do you call me Snowflake? Aren't snowflakes small and useless? Izuku fought off the impending rage. Chisaki's words had been ingrained into Eri. Although Izuku was doing his best, Overhaul's influence on the kid reared its ugly head every once in a while. Izuku set Eri down to the ground, then bent down to look her in the eye. Yes, but snowflakes are known for being small, but beautiful. Really? Here, look. He pointed at a poster of a really intricate snowflake. Eri gasped. They're really tiny, and we can't see the patterns unless we look closely. That old poopy head didn't look at you. He doesn't know how beautiful you are, Snowflake. But I do. Eri was at a loss for words. She hugged Izuku and wept into his chest. She didn't have to say anything. She was crying happy tears for the first time in her life. Wade, contrary to ruining the moment, was watching the interaction between father and daughter. He turned to the nearest worker. Hey, is there anything here with a snowflake pattern? He asked, looking at Eri. There are snowflake print t-shirts in her size, the worker replied. Do they come in different colors? Wade inquired, and receiving a nod, he said. I'll take 3. Buying the clothes, he walked back over. That is a large amount of girls moving together. Wade observed. Izuku looked up and saw what his friend was talking about. Oh no. Wade had seen Izumi, along with Eureka and a handful of other people. What's wrong? Eri asked. Hey, Snowflake? Stay with Dash, Izuku gagged. Stay with your Uncle Wade for a while, okay? Wade rolled his eyes and Eri nodded reluctantly, apprehensive about being separated from Izuku. Noticing this, he directed Eri's attention to Izumi's group. If those people see me, I might not able to continue being Spider-Man. Eri's eyes widened, and she was suddenly pushing him to leave. I feel like she loves Spider-Man more than me sometimes. Izuku thought as he slipped out of sight. Spider-Man was thriving because he didn't need to worry about Izuku Midoriya. He didn't want to start worrying now. Okay, bye for now guys, Eureka said, waving the rest of the girls off. Me and Izumi are gonna get clothes. If you didn't keep throwing up on your things, we wouldn't have to this, the greenette muttered. Well, if you weren't so keen on training my quirk, I wouldn't keep throwing up. Eureka shot back. Izumi groaned. We've already had this argument, just. A soft gasp interrupted Izumi's train of thought. What was that? She asked, looking around. The voice that answered her belonged to a man holding a scared little girl in his hands. Oh, sorry. You just remind her of her father. Izuku, watching from the ceiling, face-palmed. Ah, she's so cute. Eureka gushed. Izumi, however, raised an eyebrow. You're not her father? Then who is? Spider-Man. Izuku damn near fell off the ceiling. Izumi and Eureka were on their guard now. Funny. Who is her dad? Izumi pressed again. I'm not supposed to tell you. Wade said, smiling. Eureka, call the police. Izumi said, not taking her eyes off the kid. Her friend nodded. No wait, this isn't what it looks like. Wade's eyes going wide. Izuku was already in his Spider-Man threads, and it definitely was in his power to drop down and validate Wade's story. But he was considering letting the idiot go to jail. He could always move back in with the Midoriyas. Maybe in another timeline. He sighed and jumped down. I think it went well. If I didn't drop down and prove I was Spider-Man, you could have gotten arrested, Wade. That's your opinion. That's a fact, and you know what else is a fact. Damn you, curiosity. What? I wanted you to be arrested. Are you trying to hurt my feelings? Are your feelings hurt? Wade nodded. Then yes. I have no words. Anyway, who's this guy again? Spider-Man asked, looking to the man they were tracking. He looks familiar. Dabby? Why don't you move in with him then? I'm clearly underappreciated for the services dash. Wade. Dabby, recently joined the League of Villains, according to our sources. Not a whole lot of information about this guy, though. Izuku realized where he knew this guy from. I'm going to make a gamble. Wait here. Wade didn't even respond. He was muttering to himself. Spidey rolled his eyes and hopped down and faced the shocked man, who immediately adopted a battle stance. Dabby. Spider-Man asked, that's what you call yourself these days? What's that supposed to mean? Dabby growled. If I had to pick a new name for myself, Dabby probably wouldn't be my first choice. What the hell are you talking about? It wouldn't be my second or third. That's pretty high and mighty coming from you, Spider-Man. Touché. Spidey chuckled. Why become a villain? I know for a fact you used to be quite a nice guy. What do you know about me? The scarred man pressed, irritated. You used to volunteer at FEAST. Generally, that's a nice thing to do. How do you dash? I remember you, Tuya. Dabby froze. What the hell happened to you? Home life, I guess, he answered, stunned. Endeavor. Damn it, you've done your research, haven't you? You're right. I was born to surpass All Might. Endeavor pushed me past my limits. Didn't mean he ever stopped pushing. He motioned to his scars. Spider-Man nodded slowly. Dabby continued to rant. Then Shoto came along with an optimal quirk. He cast me aside. Had to step in as best I could for Fuyamai and Natsuo. Barely had any interaction with Shoto if my father could help it. But, the idea that Endeavor would do the same thing to Shoto, that I couldn't. You left. Spider-Man stated. Why yeah. I don't really blame you. I went through something like that. I'm Izuku. Remember me? Green hair, and quirkless. Bingo, Izuku pointed a finger gun at him. Then. But. How are you? Spider-Man. I'm not going to answer that. When I was diagnosed, quirkless diagnosed. That's the word they used, like it's a damn disease. Anyway, my parents began to neglect me. It really sucked. At some point I found out my parents were heroes. That was a devastating discovery. I moved out, and stayed with friends. Which heroes? You really think I'm going to answer that? My point is, you don't have to take it out on the world. There are people to talk to. Isn't it too late for that? I've already become a villain. It's never too late. Promise me you'll at least think about it. Yeah, I will. Heroes really suck sometimes, don't they? Some of them, yeah. You're alright. Hey, Todoroki? Remember that old song we used to sing? Wah please no. Tuya and Toga, sitting in a tree, hold on, I was kidding, it was a joke, wait dash. Spider-Man. Izumi cried in shock. Wade stopped sweating and relaxed. Papa. Eri almost jumped into the vigilante's arms out of Wade's. Papa. The two girls shouted, incredulous looks on their faces. Yes, it is I. Spider-Papa. The costumed figure laughed. Making dad jokes while crawling up walls. The three girls giggled. Spider-Man was doing a really impressive All Might impression. Under the mask, Izuku was trying to mask his voice so Izumi wouldn't recognize it. Wait, so you're actually her dad? Uraraka asked. Hold on. You actually Spider-Man? Izumi inquired. Yup. Spidey, carefully holding Eri, leaped into the air and stayed there, latching onto the ceiling with just his fingers. Eri's smile began to give off light. Uraraka began to fidget in place. Izumi's gaze narrowed. A lot of people can do that. You're a deeply mistrusting person, aren't you, young one? I respect that. Izuku let out a deep belly chuckle, still emulating All Might. No worries, I have a foolproof way to prove my identity. He released his hold on the ceiling, and landed face to face with the girls. Greetings, young Uravite. The brunette's breath hitched, and she promptly passed out. Uraraka? Izumi asked, concerned, seeing her friend go limp on her feet, and she caught her before she could fall over. Geez, you remind me too much of Izuku sometimes, she muttered, and Spider-Man faltered, and forgot to disguise his voice when he next spoke. See, could you please keep this to yourselves? I'd prefer it if the world didn't know about her. Izumi nodded slowly, and her eyes widened when she heard his voice. Izuku noticed her hesitation and mentally berated himself. Luckily, Uraraka's eyes flew back open at that moment. Seeing Spider-Man standing before her, and realizing she hadn't been dreaming, she spoke up. "Selfie," she demanded. Spider-Man chuckled and handed Eri to Wade, who was silent for fear revealing further secrets. Not because the author forgot about him. Nope. Not at all. Yup, I most definitely remembered that he was there and could break the fourth wall. Anyway, Eureka pressed her phone into Izumi's hands. Spider-Man chuckled and moved to stand next to her. The brunette threw up a peace sign and Spidey did the same. Izumi, still trying to comprehend what the hell was going on, shrugged and took the picture. "Welp, it was nice seeing you girls, but I gotta go, like now." He swung off, leaving Wade holding Eri. The four stared at each other. Wade left first, muttering goodbyes and hurling unspoken profanities at someone named Binge, Eri peeking over his shoulder to wave at the girls. They waved back. Izumi turned to Eureka, who was staring at the picture. "Are you going to post dash?" The phone in Izumi's pocket vibrated. "Never mind. What do you think Mr. Izawa will say? He won't know." He knew. Mike had shown him the picture. As soon as the students got back, he called out for Eureka, and her face went pale. Izumi chuckled and followed her. Izawa didn't bother to even ask what happened. "I suppose it's preferable to you trying to fight and slash or capture him. Even with Yagi there, as powerful as she is, he still could easily have run you two through the sewers and then hung you out to dry." The two students were taken aback. Was the vigilante really that experienced? Izumi thought to herself. Eureka was bothered by something else, though. "The sewers?" she asked. Izawa hesitated, but didn't respond. "If you run into a vigilante or villain again, don't take a picture. Let someone know immediately." "Why yes sir. Dabby almost destroyed my suit. Can't even use these pants anymore. Can't say you didn't deserve it, from what I heard." "Welp, guess it is what it is. Guess I'll wear sweatpants or something," Izuka thought aloud. Wade raised an eyebrow. "Sweatpants?" he asked. "I'm not swinging around in jeans," Izuka scoffed. "Plus sweatpants are freer compared to the usual tights, so that's a bonus. Why don't you just throw on a jacket or a hoodie or something to complete the casual look?" Wade said sarcastically. Izuka dropped the burnt spandex to the ground. "That's a great idea," he exclaimed. "I'll ask Eri what she thinks I should wear." Izuka hopped out of the window, swinging towards Hisashi's. "Oh, he's actually doing it," Wade said to himself, walking over to shut the window. Walking to his room, he nearly tripped on the discarded burnt pants on the ground. Seeing it jogged his memory. "Hey! Is Izuka wearing pants?" As an answer to his question, a banging noise came from the window. Wade ran over to let him in, and doubled over in laughter. There was Izuku in literally just a mask and spider print briefs. You look good." Wade snickered, after recovering from his fit of laughter. "Go cut off your head," Izuku muttered, slinking back to his room. "Been there, done that. I okay. Is he okay? That's good. Thanks, May." Izuku put the phone down and stared at the floor, in a state of disbelief. "Hey, what was that?" Wade asked, referring to the phone call. "You look as white as a skull." Izuku mumbled something. Wade furrowed his brow. "Didn't quite catch that." "They took her." Izuku repeated, louder, and more aggressively. Wade froze. What?" he asked, not wanting to draw a conclusion. Izuku looked at him with tears in his eyes. "They kidnapped Eri, Wade. Hisashi and Eri were at Heroes Park. He and Izuku had to be extremely careful. Izumi still occasionally met up with the Midoriyas, so he could only leave Eri with them during school hours, when he was certain that she was occupied. He was extra certain today. Izumi had mentioned to Hisashi that they had a field trip. Daddy made all this. Yup. It's amazing, isn't it? It isn't all that great. Hisashi and Eri turned around to face the source of the voice. The speaker was wearing a green jumpsuit, with golden gauntlets and a cape that flowed with the wind. The most intriguing detail, however, was the glass sphere he had in place of a head. It was full of a swirling mist. "Who are you?" "A new hero." "Not anything so crazy, no." "You are Hisashi Midoriya, correct?" the man asked. Hisashi narrowed his eyes and stood in front of Eri. "No, why?" Hisashi asked. He didn't need spider sense to know that this fellow was dangerous. The man hummed and put a finger to his chin. He then pointed that finger at the scared girl. Really? Coulda sworn that that's Eri behind you. The girl's eyes went as wide as dinner plates and she began to shake in terror. Get away from us. The world around the two began to fade away into darkness, as the mysterious figure advanced on them. Hisashi pulled Eri closer. No, I don't think I will. The League and I have business with her. Damn it. Izuku yelled, punching a hole through the drywall. They took her. I'm so sorry. Wade apologized, then attempted to console his friend. He pushed Izuku to the couch and sat him down. Izuku calmed down and stared into space. Was the universe conspiring against him? Sure felt like it. Fast was burnt to the ground, because he was angry at All Might. Hisashi almost died. That was one of his lowest points. He became Spider-Man. He got his life together, made a crazy but loyal friend, and made the decision to reconnect to Hisashi, and days got a little happier. Found a daughter, and his days got even happier. Was this his fault? As Izuku began to blame himself, he realized something. Hisashi was probably blaming himself as well. It definitely wasn't Hisashi's fault. So why would he blame himself? He couldn't have known villains were coming. No. This was squarely the fault of villains, and when he got his hands on whoever was dumb enough to plan this. Wait. Yeah. Izuku paused. Did he really want to go through with this? This is a one-time thing. The green-haired man started. Wade gasped. You don't mean, he said, flabbergasted, and not daring to believe what his roommate was saying. Yeah, I do. But that's illegal. It doesn't have to be, if you know what you're doing. Izuku pointed out. I won't let you down. Wade saluted, and grinned. A wave of second thoughts swept over Izuku. You know what? I'm coming with. Just to keep you in line. What? But it's way more fun on my own. Wade complained. Wade. Fine. Let's go suit up. Wade bounced to his feet and struck a pose. The greatest superhero team-up of all time. Spy-Day-Pool. It's gonna be legend, wait for it, dairy. Legendary. At this, Izuku face-palmed. Wade, I swear to God, if you find a way to mess this up, I will find a way for you to die. Geez, get that stick out of your dash. Wade. How the hell is your dialogue in italics? Izuku glared at him. Alright. Let's go get the kid. This is great. Izuku can do the threatening for me. Oh shut up, Benj. No you. Class 1A was on the bus. They were going on a field trip, and as per usual, Izuku had given them the bare minimum information possible. He'd only told them that they were going to get a taste of rescue training. Apart from the students, there were 3 heroes in the bus. All Might, Emerald, and Izuku, who sat up front with the driver, where he was taking a nap. The other 2 heroes were going through an impromptu QA session. What's it like, being Japan's #1 professional hero? Kaminari asked. It's a hassle most of the time, if I'm being honest. All Might answered. Actually, if Spider-Man was a registered pro hero, he'd be #1, Izumi interjected, not missing a chance to mess with her dad. What? All Might was clearly taken aback. But he's a vigilante. A lawbreaker. Right now, he's more active and popular than you. #1 might be an exaggeration, but he's at least as popular as Hawks, she said, not bending the truth this time. How is that even possible? He's barely been around a year. People like him a lot, Izumi shrugged. Plus, he's active a lot on the internet. People my age like that sort of thing. I see. All Might thought for a while. I shall join social media. Absolutely not. Siam said, seeing the look on her daughter's face, and trying not to laugh. You're busy enough as it is. Fine. The #1 hero pouted. Do you like him, Izumi? Do I have to answer that? Yes you do, young lady, Siam said, switching sides. Yeah, I guess I like him, Izumi said, glaring at her mother. What about you, Mom? Do I like him? Siam thought to herself. She thought back to that night they'd met on the rooftop. She hadn't told anyone about it. The Hero Association needs more people like him, yes, she said. The 2 of you. I feel betrayed. I'm not used to doing this while the sun is up. Wade said to his friend. They were both in costume. We have to do this now, Spidey muttered, as Deadpool knocked on the door. After half a minute of waiting, it opened, and they came face to face a white-haired man wearing a purple jacket and a scarf, with a lit cigarette in his mouth. "Hey, Jiren," Deadpool said, shaking his hand. "My man. Wilson. I see you're playing hero these days. Listen, I know I owe you, but you gotta tell us what you know about the League of Villains' recent actions." "I don't gotta tell you anything," Jiren said, attempting to close the door, but Spider-Man stopped him. "Let me do the talking, Wade," Spider-Man said to his partner. "You think I'm going to take you seriously?" Jiren scoffed. "Really? You're a child, a softie." Spider-Man turned to the info broker, and the aura in his voice when he spoke shocked both the former mercenary and Jiren into silence. "Listen. I'm in a terrible mood, and I'm having a hard time restraining myself. Wade's here to stop me from killing you, but I can still do grave bodily harm, if you don't start talking." "Alright. I don't know anything," Jiren said, trying and failing to remain unintimidated. "Fun fact. Part of my spider quirk lets me produce venom from my fangs. I haven't tried it out yet, but we could always find out if it causes paralysis, excruciating pain, or just death. Maybe all three if I'm lucky." Jiren immediately gave up. The leader was putting together a team to fight you. A couple of them quit, and there was this big scene. T, the fire guy with the scars, was one of them. He usually hangs around in the bar near here. Don't know who the other one was, though. The broker said all that in one breath, and Wade whispered a quiet "damn." "Great." The vigilante clapped and rubbed his arms together, as if he didn't just make Jiren soil his pants. "Was that so hard?" The info broker was stunned into silence by Spider-Man's complete 180 in personality, and before he could pull himself to say words, the two had left and were on their way to the bar in the area. Wade was staring at Spider-Man. The wall crawler kept glancing back at Deadpool, who didn't stop staring. "Stop staring at me like that," Spidey finally said. "Come on, say something. Dude, that was epic. Your text was both bold and italicized." The buses came to a stop outside a glass dome-shaped building. Izumi recognized the place immediately. The unforeseen simulation joint. All Might had brought her here a few times to train her in how to act in certain scenarios. It was good fun. U.S.J. Izumi exclaimed, excited. Kaminari tilted his head in confusion. Universal Studios Japan. No Deshjiro face-palmed. You know what? Yeah, it is. That was sarcasm, yes. Kaminari asked, confused. Zero nodded. He turned back to Jiro, who was laughing. He scowled at her. "I'm offended," he muttered. The class laughed and they all entered the building. "It does look like Universal Studios Japan, though, or is that just me?" Mina said, glancing around. "It does have that grandiose energy," Kirishima agreed. 13 was the professional hero in charge at the USJ. She greeted the class and told them about how they needed to manage and carefully use their dangerous quirks and about the different zones that emulated environments. Izumi had heard all that before, so she wasn't paying attention. She glanced around the huge dome. To the peaks of the mountain zone, the fires of the conflagration zone, and the waters of the flood zone. Her eyes wandered back to the central plaza, and something was off. There was a swirling purple and green cloud. "Mr. Izawa," she said, not taking her eyes off the cloud. The clouds dispersed and revealed 6 sinister figures. A man in dark clothes, covered in hands, his sides, arms, and his face, with wispy pale hair. A purple, human-shaped cloud, in a bartender's uniform. A man surrounded by green smoke in a dark green, skin-tight jumpsuit, with golden gauntlets, and a glass sphere for a head. A stitched-together creature, out of the nightmares of a madman, complete with a cracked beak and an exposed brain. A literal swarm of bees. And an older man in leopard print who looked plain compared to the rest of the team. He was holding something, someone in his hands. Yurika's and Izumi's eyes widened when they realized who the man was holding. SP Spider-Man. I quit, I swear, the blonde girl cried. Spider-Man and Deadpool had gone to the bar that Jiren mentioned, and luckily there was Dabby, sitting at the back, sipping on a drink. He had someone sitting next to him, a blonde girl with her hair in a double bun. On seeing Spider-Man, she panicked. "Calm down, Toga," Dabby said, patting her shoulder. "Sorry, she's getting used to having blood again." "Oh, the both of you were in the league?" Spider-Man asked, him and Deadpool sitting down. Dabby nodded. Emphasis on were, Dabby said. They began recruiting all these weirdos, especially this guy with the tracking quirk, called himself the Hero Hunter. Toga snickered at the memory. Dabby smiled and continued, venom in his voice now. Then they made plans to kidnap a child. That's when we left. That's great that you took my advice, but do you have any idea what their next move is? To Dabby. Toga interrupted. What is going on? You didn't tell her? Spider-Man asked. Tell me what? Himiko, it's me, he said, softly. Her eyes narrowed. No one at the League apart from Dabby knew her name, so the only way Spider-Man could have known was if he knew her at F.E.A.S.T, where she frequently got blood. And only one person got close enough to her to use her first name. No. Toga flat out denied the revelation. Spider-Man sighed and began to sing. Tuya and Toga. Zuko, she asked, slowly. The hero nodded. Yup, it's nice to see you two, but reunions can come later, I'm kinda in a hurry. They said something about attacking USJ, she said, still a little stunned. Universal Studios Japan. Wade asked, returning to the table with drinks. So I guess they just hate fun and don't want anyone else to have it. Close, but no. Thanks, Himi. Hey. I'll stay, Wade said, to Spider-Man, I need a drink, and you need to let all that anger you're bottling up out. The fight will be more meaningful to the plot if I'm not there. Thanks. I guess. Izuku said, then he turned to his old friends. But before I go. Stop, no Dabby tried to stop him. Tuya and Toga, sitting in a tree, kissing. The blonde flushed red, and Dabby glared at the vigilante, who ran off, giggling like a schoolgirl. Spider-Man exited the bar, jumped into the air, and swung towards the unforeseen simulation joint, a hero training facility he'd heard a lot about. A father is someone who takes care of you, someone that picks you up when you fall down. Someone that would do anything for you. Someone that loves you and wants to make you smile. That was what he told Eri what a father was. Then she asked him to be her new papa. Why do you want me to be your papa? Because you said a father is someone who takes care of you, and would do anything to make you smile, and you already do that for me. He swung towards the USJ. Spider-Man, no, Izuku Midoriya, a father, was royally ticked off. Ah, All Might is here. That makes things easier. You are the League of Villains, yes? All Might asked, stepping in front of the kids, along with Siam, Mr. Aizawa, and 13. The number one hero had recognized the leader, from Aizawa's description. His daughter, however, was staring at the sleeping child that the hunter was holding. Isn't that Spidey's daughter? Izumi muttered out loud. Yuriko was thinking the same thing. I think so. Okako answered. Someone else overheard their brief exchange. Spidey's daughter, excuse me? Aizawa asked, slipping on his goggles. Yuriko and Izumi froze. They hadn't told the teacher about the white-haired child they had met in the mall. He asked us to keep it a secret, and, in our defense, you never actually asked what happened, Yuriko quickly pointed out. Aizawa groaned in annoyance and followed 13, All Might and Siam. You kids stay here. He glared at Yuriko. We will have a talk later. Siam, secure the child. On hearing All Might's commanding voice, the students calmed down. Sure, there were villains here, but the number one hero, the symbol of peace, was here to protect them. Not just him, as a matter of fact, he had the help of Emerald, renowned for having one of the strongest telekinesis quirks in Japan. 13, who had an extremely powerful quirk, Black Hole. Eraserhead, their homeroom teacher, who had the power to disable quirks. All Might took on the creature that Shigaraki had said was engineered to defeat him. 13 and Eraserhead took on Mysterio and Kurogiri. Emerald held Kraven in place and levitated the baby out of his hands, and into hers. The students looked unimpressed. The pros moved like a well-oiled machine. The most impressive moment was All Might performing a suplex on the monster. That was also the turning point. It all happened at once. Kurogiri had tricked 13 into using her quirk on herself. Now, Kurogiri was free to use his quirk to assist the Nomua. The top half of the creature suddenly sunk into the ground, and popped up again under All Might. It grabbed the hero by the sides and dug its fingers in. The symbol of peace began to cough out blood. Mysterio created a fake, and Eraserhead fell for the decoy, and was punched around, and eventually Mysterio struck him hard enough that he went into a daze. Kraven, even though his arms were pinned to his sides, was able to move a couple of his fingers, and with those 2 fingers, he was able to extract a knife from a pouch and sling it at Siam. The knife spun through the air. The hero, whose attention was previously on the girl in her arms, saw the knife coming, panicked, and spun around, and the blade cut across her back. She dropped to her knees in pain. Then she found she couldn't move or use her quirk. The blade is laced with a special drug. When the substance gets into your bloodstream, it paralyzes you and disables your quirk. Temporarily, unfortunately, Kraven explained, a mad grin on his face. Then Shigaraki turned towards the students and smiled evilly, who were now terrified for their lives. Yuriko was almost in tears. The day had gone from seeing her favorite hero in person to almost certain death. Izumi pushed to the front, and took a stance. "Itza! Go get help," she yelled. "But I can't just leave dash." "Yes you can. You're the fastest here. We need you." The class made sounds of agreement. Itza, hearing all them, fell silent, then gave his classmates a look of determination. Then he sprinted towards the doors. Shigaraki scoffed and pointed a finger at the boy. The form of bees standing behind the villain took the air and sped towards Itza, before Izumi held them in midair with her telekinesis. Itza got to the huge doors and started to pry them open. The speedster was trying to create a gap just large enough to slip through. He could just see the outside, when fingers gloved in red made their way inside. Itza gasped in shock and stepped back. The doors suddenly flew to the sides, and jammed open. On the other side stood Spider-Man. The student and vigilante looked at each other. "Go get help," Spidey said. Itza had a brief look of apprehension on his face, but he listened and ran off towards UA. He jumped in and landed in front of the students. The class was shocked that he was there, but they definitely weren't relieved. These villains had taken out 4 pros, including All Might. What could one vigilante do? Spider-Man glanced around. He saw Izumi struggling to hold Swarm back. He saw All Might locked in a losing battle with the Nomua. He saw a paralyzed Siam holding his sleeping snowflake in her arms. She looked unharmed. He let out a sigh of relief and looked back to the students. He noticed Okako looking back at him, with tears threatening to fall from her chocolate eyes. He stepped over to her. He patted her on the head. "Don't worry. It'll be alright," he said. He turned to the girl holding back Swarm. "Thanks, Zumi." 6 to go. Before Izumi or the villains could react, Spider-Man lunged at Kurogiri, catching the living warp gate with a flying kick. He immediately followed up with a bioelectric fist. The effect amplified by Kurogiri's metal frame, the purple cloud shrieked, before falling to the ground. However, Spider-Man didn't stop punching until Kurogiri had seized all movement. He then turned towards the rest of the villains, and a deadly aura filled the glass dome. No one moved. 1 down. 5 to go. Seeing the villain Hisashi had described, the vigilante roared and flew at the kidnapper, his fists sparking. On contact, the man faded away into a green mist. The mist grew, then dissipated, revealing at least 15 different copies of the same man. All of the Mysterio clones began to laugh as they surrounded the vigilante. They circled him and began to close in, when he suddenly disappeared from view. "What? Where did he go?" As an answer to the villain's question, the vigilante popped back in view in front of one of the Mysterios. Boo! Before the villain could do anything, Spider-Man's fist smashed through the transparent sphere easily. The man flew to the ground after the single punch. Spider-Man walked over to the man. He stood over the man's body. He'd recognized the quirk immediately. He knew this man. He was the first villain he ever took down. The man with the illusion quirk that had held Okako hostage all those months ago. Izuku frowned. Had this guy really held a grudge for that long? Mysterio began to stir, and Izuku let loose a trio of bioelectric enhanced punches directly to the man's torso, and he passed out from the pain. 2 down. 4 to go. "That electricity he has," Kaminari muttered, "odd. It's like my quirk, but concentrated in his fists." "Yeah, but his are released on contact, and, combined with his strength, do way more damage than yours," Zero replied. "You think I could pull that off?" "Probably, but I doubt you could figure out how to." "Hey. On your own." "Oh. That's fair. Kraven, was it?" Spider-Man asked, looking away from Mysterio to the man in leopard print. "You're next." Kraven was clearly excited and happy for some action, drew a blade and lunged at the hero. Whack! Kraven staggered back, reeling over the sheer power of Spider-Man's fist. "Surprised?" Spider-Man asked, aiming another blow. Wham! "I've decided to not pull my punches so much anymore." Thud. Yuri not giving me a chance," the hero hunter cried, dazed. "You don't deserve a chance to fight back. You disgust me. How can you hunt and kill people for some misplaced sense of honor? Who the hell do you think you are?" He struck the hunter again. "Tell me, Kraven, what does it feel like? How does it feel to be weak? To feel helpless? To know that there's nothing you can do but lose?" He drew his arm back. "To be hunted." He knocked the man out, thoroughly shattering Kraven's worldview and nose. 3 down. 3 to go. Ever since Spider-Man had entered the USJ, Swarm had become twice as active, thrashing around in Izumi's hold. As the fight went on, the bees, eager to kill Spider-Man, they struggled harder, as Izumi's limit crept closer. She suddenly shrieked as she lost her grip on the bees. Katsuki ran over, pushed her out of the way, and aimed his palm at Swarm. "Die!" he yelled, letting out a blast at Swarm. The bees simply split its form apart to avoid the blast and moved to attack the kid. Bakugo's screams made Spider-Man chuckle to himself. He shot a web line and pulled the explosive blonde out of the bees. "Keep clear." Spider-Man unceremoniously chucked him to the side. "You're not pretty enough to save twice." Bakugo scrambled to his feet and glared at the vigilante. Spider-Man ignored him and looked at Swarm. 1,000 eyes looked back. "We will kill you, Spider." The bees droned. Spider-Man crouched in anticipation. "Take your best shot." He then jumped into the air and dived into the cloud of bees and disappeared from sight. And a split second later, the sound of a resounding clap was heard. He dropped to the ground, his hands pressed together. Taking them apart, the purple-striped bee fell to the ground, dead. The bees stopped attacking and flew up and around for a few seconds, before eventually making their way out the open door and into the open air. 4 down. 2 to go. Spider-Man then turned towards the Shigaraki. "You may have somehow defeated my team," Shigaraki started, "but the Noma will kill you. It was created to defeat All Might, and it can do that easily," he finished with pride. "I can see that," Spider-Man said, stealing a glance at the bleeding symbol of peace, who was still fighting the Noma. "Apart from the fact that it's possibly the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life, it only has one problem." "What?" Spider-Man tapped at his head, referring to the Noma's exposed brain. Shigaraki blew it off, saying, "Doesn't matter. He'll tear you apart all the same." Izuka realized that Shigaraki just didn't care about the fact that he had taken down the majority of his Sinister Six. He had that much faith in his creation. He almost felt bad for what was about to happen. Fun fact, the brain tells the body what to do by sending messages through the nervous system. Noma, leave All Might. Kill the spider. All Might, who was initially shocked when the creature left him, used the moment of respite to get his bearings. He went to where Siam kneeled, and carefully carried her and the sleeping girl to where the students had huddled to watch the fight. He had Yayorozu create bandages for him and 13. Eraserhead hadn't woken up yet. He probably would have, if he had a sleep schedule at all. These messages that the brain sends are little pulses of electricity. He raised his fist, and let it spark. A brief look of doubt flashed across Shigaraki's face, but it was quickly swapped out for a look of preemptive triumph. The huge Frankenstein's monster swiped at the vigilante, who dodged out of the way and struck the creature's brain with bioelectricity. As he expected, this was devastating. The Noma shrieked and stumbled. He hit it again, pumping more venom into his punch this time. The huge monster spasmed violently and fell to the ground. The vigilante didn't let up, punching the exposed brain until he could. It made nothing but squelching noises. The Noma, the imagineered horror that had given All Might a run for his money, lay still and lifeless. 5 down. 1 to go. Shigaraki was the last one standing. Spider-Man shot web at him and walked up to him, coming face to face with the villain, the deadly intent seeping off him in waves. By this time, Siam paralysis had worn off, and Eraserhead was awake. All Might was holding Eri while Siam regained feeling in her limbs. They don't join the fight because they feel the massive bloodlust emanating off Spider-Man. Shigaraki, like the idiot sandwich he is, ignores Spider-Man's aura. He smirked and activated his quirk on the web. The web decayed into dust, and he turned his attention back to the vigilante. Too late. Spider-Man, who had gotten in close and was acting quickly, grabbed the villain by the thumbs, one in each hand, and snap! Shigaraki screamed. Spider-Man let go, and Shigaraki saw the snapped digit flail around uselessly. Spider-Man took his index fingers next. Snap! His middle fingers. Crack! Ring fingers. Snap! Pinky fingers. Crack! Shigaraki was yelling at the top of his lungs in pain. Everyone watched in horror and shock. It was unsettling to witness, but no one could tear their eyes away. The most unnerving part was that the vigilante, who was universally known for talking all the time, had been deathly silent throughout the whole ordeal. Shigaraki couldn't even clutch at his hands in pain. All of his fingers were broken, and unless he could activate his quirk with his toes, he was in big trouble. Give me a good reason I shouldn't stuff each of these hands down your throat, the vigilante growled. Why you're a hero? Heroes don't kill. Shigaraki cried. Spider-Man let out a dry chuckle. I'm no hero. What? Shigaraki spluttered out. I see how you'd be confused. Spider-Man is a hero. He lifted up his mask slightly, showing the villain his gritted teeth, the rage etched into his features. I'm not. And believe me, I do very much want to kill you. Then Shigaraki understood. He hadn't angered Spider-Man. He'd pissed off whoever was under the mask. The revelation came too little, too late. Izuka then proceeded to beat the living daylights out of Shigaraki. Each punch heavier than the last. Anytime he threatened to slip out of consciousness, Spider-Man would jug him back up with a bioelectric sting. You coward, Spider-Man hissed. I can understand wanting me gone. But you do not go after the people close to me. Understand? Shigaraki could only groan. The vigilante placed his palms on the villain and pumped electricity into him, and the villain began to convulse in pain. Understand? Arg. Yes. Why yes. Please. Try anything like this again, and no matter how far you run, I will chase you to the ends of the earth. Then this? This will be a cakewalk compared to what I will do to you. Spider-Man struck him in the forehead one final time, knocking him out. He got to his feet, breathing heavily, clearly at the end of his rope. 6 down. What the hell was that? Toru squealed. He's usually so upbeat and carefree. It seems he's hiding a dark power. Tokoyami said. Oh damn, that was terrifying. Ashido shuddered. Really wouldn't want to get on his bad side. The students and teachers watched as the vigilante tied up all the villains and dragged them to the central plaza, just as Itza arrived. On such short notice, he was able to get Present Mike, Midnight, and Recovery Girl to heal the heroes that had gotten hurt. When they actually got there, however, most of the villains had broken bones and Shigaraki needed intensive care. Present Mike made a quick phone call to notify all the heroes on the way that all was well, the villains had been taken down. Midnight helped Recovery Girl load the villains into an ambulance. Hey Midnight! Spider-Man called out. What is it, hot stuff? She spun around and faced the vigilante, pushing out her chest. That one has a warp quirk, he pointed to Kurojiri. Could you ride with him in case he wakes up? Sure thing, Spidey. The 18+ rated hero winked at the vigilante and left with the villains. Kaminari and Mineta stared at the vigilante in shock. Who is this guy? Midnight was basically seducing him, and he didn't care. It didn't even faze him. How? Truth is, Izuku didn't have the energy left to care. He had been running on adrenaline, and now that Eri was safe, all that exertion was catching up to him. Spider-Man. The spandex-clad figure turned towards the student that just called him. He made eye contact with Izumi. He began to slowly make his way to the green net. Don't try anything. Itza warned. Spider-Man said nothing and didn't break eye contact with Izumi. He was getting closer. The heroes and heroes in training watched the vigilante. Izumi had an inkling of a hope that Spider-Man was someone she wanted to see. The vigilante got face to face with Izumi. He placed a weak hand on her shoulder. The atmosphere was tense. Hey! To everyone else watching, Izumi then tackled the vigilante, causing them both to fall to the ground. Eraser got up, ready to assist his student in a fight. Then both the student and the spider sat up, and the sight shocked everyone. Izumi was hugging the vigilante, and crying, burying her tears in his shoulder. The heroes and the students were at a loss. All Might recovered first and took action. Izumi. Step away Fro dash. Shut up, Dad. Izumi blurted out. Just, stop. She hugged Spider-Man tighter, refusing to let go. Copycat, I yelled at him first. Spider-Man whispered. Izumi let out a small chuckle. Shut up, idiot. Let me have this. I just got you back. Eureka, Izumi is stealing your man, Ashido teased Eureka, who promptly hit her and blushed angrily. Why is Yagi hugging Spider-Man? Kaminari asked, confused. Am I the only one that finds it hilarious that she chose Spider-Man over Bakugo? Kaminari laughed, ducking an explosion from the explosive teen. Spider-Man's grip on Izumi tightened. She smiled. It really was him, ever so overprotective, and back from the dead. Don't worry, he has no chance, she whispered. Okay, little listener. You should let go of the bad vigilante now, Mike said, walking over with the pro's tears still in her eyes. Izumi's head shot up, and she glared viscously at the radio hero. Bad? Bad. Izumi began to yell at present Mike, who hastily stepped back. He's been putting his life on the line. For free. NUDARMMPH. It's fine. Spider-Man said, pushing Izumi's head into his chest, shutting her up. Since when was she so emotional? Toru wondered out loud. Yagi, you're being irrational, Eraserhead interjected. Can you please release him? No. Never again. Again? Mike asked. Izumi was silent. Leave him alone, Izumi. Are you going to go away again? Izumi asked Spider-Man quietly, ignoring her father. The vigilante shook his head. Izumi. Let the vigilante go, at on MMPH. Spider-Man webbed All Might's mouth shut. I'm going to kill him, I swear, Izumi muttered, not letting go. Spider-Man let out a strained chuckle. I've missed you, Zumi. I really have. Don't ever die again, please. I won't, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You went and became a hero without me, idiot. Heh. That's not what All Might thinks. Who cares what he thinks? That's my girl. As a father, All Might was confused. The last time Izumi got like this was when Izuka left. They really didn't do anything to fix that. Izumi kinda just stopped. Now it was happening again. All Might would have called Inko to handle this, she was always better as this kind of thing. She was being treated for the substance in her system and the cut on her back, so that wasn't an option. The little girl in his arms began to stir and she opened her eyes. She saw all the unfamiliar people and began to shake. All Might, grateful for a distraction, pet her head softly. Don't worry, little one. You're safe now. She didn't calm down, and she looked around for the one she knew would do anything to keep her safe. She gasped and saw him. He looked hurt and he was in the arms of someone she didn't know. It was too much for her to handle. She leapt out of All Might's grip, and ran towards Spider-Man. The kid! Okako exclaimed. Eri ran over to Spider-Man, and flung her little body into Izumi. Eri's attempt at a tackle shocked Izumi enough for her to release her brother. The little assailant jumped into Spider-Man's arms and began to punch at Izumi. Leave Papa alone, she screamed, slamming her small fists into her. What the hell? Izuwa deadpanned. It's actually his kid. No wonder she was taken. Eri, it's okay. Izuku patted her head. BB but you're hurt. She's not the one that hurt me. I beat up those guys already. Sniff really? Yeah. I'll be fine. He lifted his mask partly, so his relieved smile was visible to his daughter. Are you alright? I was very worried about you. Izumi stared at the two incredulously. Oh, yeah. This is my daughter, Eri. He leaned in and whispered. Eri, this is my sister. Aunt Zumi. Eri's look changed to one of awe. Papa talks about you all the time. He does. Izumi asked, flustered. Yeah. He says you're one of the best heroes ever. Eri said, her eyes glowing. I am not even a provisional hero yet. You'll be the best of the best, Spider-Man said. I'm certain of it. But dash. Zumi. Shut up. You'll be a better hero than Dad. Thank you. Hold on. Is that facial hair? I come back from the dead, and this is what you ask about. He put his hand to his chin and grinned. But yes. Cool, right? He tried to get back to his feet, but his body didn't listen to him. He dropped back into Izumi's arms and sighed. He turned to Eri and smiled softly. Hey, Snowflake? I'm exhausted, he said quietly, fighting off drowsiness. I'm going to go to take a nap now, but I promise I'll wake up. Promise? Eri asked, looking up at her dad. Yeah, and most of these people are nice. Zumi's going to take care of me for now. You can stay with me if you want. He lowered his voice to a whisper and pulled his mask back down. And don't let that poopy head come near me, he said, pointing at All Might. Okay, Dad, she said quietly. Izuku smiled and closed his eyes, embracing the sleep he knew was coming. Izumi carefully laid him down. She studied his form. Apart from a few scratches from when he was dealing with Swarm, and the Noma's blood on his knuckles, the costume looked great. She looked to his daughter. She was terrified. Izumi patted her softly. Don't worry. He'll be fine, she reassured her niece. Okay, you two. Leave him be dash. Go away. Izumi and Eri both yelled at All Might. Izuku woke up to a dimly lit room. He glanced around. He was in what looked like a hospital room, and he was tucked into a bed. Eri was asleep on his chest and Izumi was sitting in a chair next to the bed, also asleep. Well, at least I wasn't out for days again. He reached an arm out of bed, careful not to disturb his daughter. He took his sister's hand in his and lightly zapped her. Izumi woke up with a small yelp. She was about to start yelling at her brother, but he pointed to Eri and put a finger to his lips. She got the message. Spider-Man, explain. Now, she whispered firmly. Izuku chuckled. I got bit by a really funky spider. No, that's it. They sat in silence for a minute. Izuku broke the silence. I made the suit your favorite colors. Red and blue. Izumi broke down in tears and hugged her brother. The action jolted Eri awake. Aunt Zumi? Why are you crying? She asked tiredly. Izuku patted her. She's missed me a lot, Snowflake. He put a hand on his sister's cheek and stared into her eyes. I'll never leave you again. I don't want to put you through that again. He hugged Izumi until she calmed down. Nnii-chan, did she spluttered out. Izuku sighed. I actually didn't plan that. By the time I woke up in the rubble, I'd been already presumed dead. Quirkless, so I can understand why everyone assumed the worst. It was also kinda convenient, since I was thinking about becoming Spider-Man full-time anyway. Now you're gonna get arrested, and you won't be ABL-. Can't be arrested, Izuku interrupted her. I'm still quirkless. Eraserhead's quirk doesn't work on me. And in all the fights I got into, the other guy always attacks first, so it's technically self-defense, and not assault. It doesn't matter if it's self-defense. It can still be vigilantism if you use your weight. Exactly. Because that law wasn't written with the quirkless in mind, I'm home free. Izuku sighed. How long have I been out? A few hours, I guess, she answered, running her hair through Eri's hair. The girl had fallen back to sleep. You beating on those villains, especially Kraven and Shigaraki. You were scary. They attacked Hisashi then took Eri. It pissed me off. You broke all of his fingers, then beat him to hell and back. I was very angry, plus he definitely deserved that. Yeah, but please don't do anything like that again. No promises. Especially if anyone close to me gets hurt. You overprotective idiot, she said, lightly bonking him on the head. He chuckled. I've been out for a few hours, right? Has Eri eaten? Wow, you're such a dad, said Recovery Girl, entering the room. A student brought up something for her to eat. Yeah, Eureka made something. She also brought up something for you, but I was hungry. Izumi said. Izuku glared at her. She giggled and he rolled her eyes. Oka? I'll have to thank her later, he muttered to himself under his breath. Izumi heard him and did a double take. I'm sorry, Oka, she asked incredulously. Spider-Man's met her a few times, that's all. Izuku hastily explained. Izumi narrowed her eyes. So what happens now, she asked, making a mental note to grill her friend later. I'll probably join your class, he said simply. What? I mean, we are missing a student, but Nizo likes me. When he finds out my age, He's probably going to try and convince me to join the UA Hero course in exchange for a pardon for my crimes. That does sound like something he'd do, Izumi said thoughtfully. As if on cue, the Chimera walked in with Aizawa and Detective Tsukachi in tow. Izuku sat up in bed. Hi Nizu. Nice to finally talk to you properly. Same, Spider-Man. Or Izuku Yagi, if you'd prefer. Nizu greeted the vigilante, and his companions froze in shock. All Might has a son. Aizawa deadpanned. Spider-Man is fine, but I go by Izuku Midoriya now. Izuku slipped off his mask and smiled. An eraserhead, nice to see you're learning proper tone to use while asking questions. I see. Well, that seems like a personal topic, and we're not here to discuss that. Expected as much. So what did you come to discuss? I'm here to offer you a deal. Izuku nudged his sister, who giggled. One of our classes in the hero course has an extra spot. I'd like you to consider filling it. Interesting. And if I refuse? You know, I really don't want to have to arrest you. Tsukachi raised a pair of handcuffs. You do good work. Yeah, about that, Izuku said, a smirk growing on his face. You can't legally arrest me as a vigilante. What? The detective eyes went as wide as dinner plates. He's telling the truth. How the turns have tabled, Izuku chuckled darkly. Izumi snorted. Counter offer, I join the course, but I still go out as Spider-Man. This was unexpected. I accept, of course. But, would you mind explaining how you can't be arrested? I'm fairly sure you're a vigilante. I don't have a quirk. True, the detective confirmed. And that means, you're not a vigilante. At least not from a legal standpoint. Assault crimes. Nizu pondered aloud. I usually don't hit first. Self-defense. I can technically take legal action against multiple pro-heroes for attacking me. Plus, what villain is going to actually press charges against me? Nizu turned to the detective, who nodded in confirmation to Izuku's words. Nizu? Are you okay? Wow, I'm shaking. I do apologize. This is just so much fun. I'm usually the one with all the power in these types of situations, but you could effectively devastate the school by suing the majority of the teachers. Why is he laughing? Aizawa wondered, sweat dropping. What's going to happen to Eri? Izumi asked. The child, Nizu thought for a while. Oh. Midoriya, you are a genius. What? Izumi and Aizawa asked. We started an elementary school branch about a few months ago. Right now it's mostly made up of the relatives of pro-heroes and siblings of students, but it's also open to the general public. How does this make him a genius? It was my idea. I sent that email with Eri in mind. So you fully expected this interaction, is what you're saying? Nizu asked. Yup. Izuku said cheerfully. Not this soon, though. Aizawa started to sweat. This kid. If it's not too much to ask, Nizu started, almost shaking with excitement. Would you be up for a game of chess later? Of course. Izuku grinned. Good, we have much to discuss. Aizawa's sweating increased. There was one thought prevalent in his mind. Those two shouldn't have met. Spider-Man peered into the room. There were the two heroes, All Might lying in a bed, with his sides bandaged up, his partner Siam sitting next to his bed. He took a deep breath and walked in. Spider-Man. Siam wondered aloud as Spidey entered. What is it? She asked. The vigilante didn't answer, instead, he stared at All Might, the number one hero, who was starting to get uncomfortable. The atmosphere felt tense. You never answered my question, you know, Spider-Man finally said. What? All Might asked, confused. What question? The vigilante sighed and raised his hands to his neck, slipping his fingers under his mask. He took a deep breath and took the mask off completely, letting the bush of green hair fall out. Enko turned white as a sheet, and All Might seemed to freeze on the spot. Izuku. Enko said, slowly and quietly. Yeah dash. Where did you get a quirk? All Might said, interrupting Izuku's train of thought. What? Izuku, caught off guard by the sudden question. Who gave you a quirk? All Might asked again. Who gave no one? Izuku realized what All Might was getting at, and he got mad. Hold on. You think that dash? Toshi. Enko scolded her husband. Izuku, Please calm down. Why should I? He yelled, and stepped closer to All Might. Muscles for brains, if I was working for your worst enemy, you wouldn't be alive right now. Not only would that thing hurt you so much more, I would consider killing you myself. I saved your life, idiot. Frankly, it's a miracle I didn't become a villain. Izuku stopped ranting to catch his breath, still glaring angrily at All Might. You certainly didn't want me to be a hero, he finished. If I remember right, you said, I didn't have what it takes. Izuku let out a deep breath and turned to Siam. Izuku, she started, stumbling over her words. Hey, Enko. You remember the last time we met, he asked in a calm voice, receiving a tearful nod. Did you tell anyone, he followed up, and she shook her head slowly, refusing to look at Toshinori. Izuku thought for a second. Izumi her told him that Enko was really trying to be better. He sighed and opened his arms. Would you like a hug? With surprising speed, Enko wrapped her arms around the vigilante. Looking down at his mother, who was sobbing and muttering apologies into his chest, Izuku was at a loss, then he heard her say something. It doesn't matter what we or anyone else says. You're a hero. Izuku smiled and hugged her a little tighter. Thanks, he whispered. Better late than never, right? Izuku. Toshinori, who'd switched out of his buff form, spoke up again. Yes. Who gave you that quirk? He asked again, firmer this time around. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Do you even care a spider did? A spider gave me this power, he snapped. All Might's expression didn't change, and Izuku didn't wait for him to speak again. I don't care if you think I'm lying. My power doesn't matter. I died. Do you even care that I'm here? Is your greatest enemy who you think about all the time? Your son. Your son just came back from the dead, and your first thought is, how'd he get that power? He continued, his voice raising again. Izuku sighed, calming himself down. You still haven't answered my question, you know? Would you have treated Izumi the same way? If she was quirkless. All Might paused, and Izuku turned around to leave. Don't bother answering, he said, opening the door. You would've. How did it go? Izumi asked, as she saw Izuku leave the room, putting his mask back on. What do you think? He groaned. Enko was okay, I guess. Anyway, how's Eri doing? She's still asleep, Izumi said, looking to the small girl in her arms. Recovery girl said whatever they put in her system should wear off soon. All she has to do is sleep it off. Izuku took the sleeping girl from his sister. The siblings started walking towards the dorms, chatting about anything that came to mind. The conversation then turned to Spider-Man's presence online. Izumi realized that Izuku was blissfully unaware of how big his impact was. Izumi pulled out her phone to show him how popular he was. When he realized people liked him as much as they did, his face lit up like the sun. They love me. They really love me. Izumi glared at him. Izuku noticed this and stopped basking in the fame. I honestly didn't think I'd be so popular. Stop being mad at me, he apologized. She gave him the cold shoulder. Zumi, Simu-un, Izuku begged playfully, wrapping an arm around her. Whatever she said, letting a small smile invade her face. How'd I get so popular, anyway? Izuku asked. The way you interact with the public is. Izumi thought for a while, putting her words together. Not normal for most heroes. Most pros barely interact with the public, apart from conferences and patrols. You, on the other hand, are way more approachable. You have QA sessions every other week. You appear almost everywhere. You eat in public, in full costume. And the childish attitude you put on helps. You play with kids for Christ's sakes. Imagine Endeavor doing that. Bold of you to assume I put on a childish attitude. If All Might represents peace, then you represent the people, she finished. That was deep. That stupid habit you have of putting on casual clothes over your costume might also have something to do with that. Less deep and a little hurtful, but yeah, I guess I see what you mean, he said, nodding. Hey, how do you know all that? Are you secretly my biggest fan? My best friend probably is, she said, shaking her head. You know, the first person you ever saved? Oka is your best friend, he asked, and she nodded. Hey, you remember why I taught you the shoulder touch? Izumi asked, noting the nickname again. Yeah. He said, unsure of where she was going with this. Use it on Eureka. Hold on, are you really trying to play matchmaker less than 24 hours after you discovered I'm alive? Izuku asked sarcastically. You'll like her, Izumi whined. Maybe you already do, she added, in a teasing voice. Izuku whipped around to glare at her, secretly grateful that she couldn't see his blush under the mask. Well, we're here, she said, and Izuku looked up at the huge building, Heights Alliance. At that moment, while Izumi led him into the dorm's common area, Izuku let it really sink in, that he's really at U.A, finally accomplishing his childhood dreams. Where is everyone? The school day technically isn't over, so I guess they're still at USJ, she said. They're probably on the way back right now. Did they really have that much time left? You did make short work of the villains, Spider-Man. Izumi said, letting him in. I was mad, Izuku said simply. He sighed, and plopped on the couch, setting Eri next to him. He bent over and slipped a hand into his boot. Izumi watched him curiously. When he pulled a phone out, she nearly choked. You keep your phone in your shoe, she asked incredulously. Boot, he corrected. And yes? Where am I supposed to keep it? A pocket, maybe, she offered. Suit don't got pockets, he said. Before you lecture me on how I'm an idiot and I should have added pockets, I wanna make a call. Sure, go ahead. Izuku dialed a number, and it rung a few times before someone picked up on the other end. Hey, Wade. Yeah. She's fine. Thanks. Bye. No, you can't have my sister's number. Bye. Wade was the guy with Eri at the mall, right? She asked, and Izuku nodded. Why don't you want to give him my number? She asked, grinning. No. Fine. Eureka dash. She likes Spider-Man, not Izuku Midoriya, he said, slinking down in his seat. I wasn't even going to suggest it. Okay, sorry. What were you going to say? He asked, eyeing her. She scratched her head, sheepishly, not expecting Izuku to say that. Thought so. Wake up. Eri. Izuku yawned and stretched. When did I even fall asleep? When I woke up, you were sleeping, she said. Where are we? We're at U.A, kiddo, he said, running his gloved hand through her silver hair. The hero school, she asked, and her father nodded. When she started looking around curiously, it melted Izuku's heart with how cute she was being. He suddenly wrapped his arms around her, surprising the girl. Ah, Papa, she exclaimed, her voice muffled by Spider-Man's chest. I'm just so happy you're okay, he said, close to tears. I was so scared when I found out what happened. I was scared too, but I knew you would save me, she said, quietly, hugging him back. Ah, that's so cute. Spidey turned towards the dorm's entrance, and it seemed that the rest of the students were back. Mina appeared to be the one who'd screamed, and it woke up Izumi, who was sleeping next to her brother. What the hell are you doing here? Please stop shouting, Bakugo, Izumi said, wincing. Bakugo walked over and got in Izumi's face. Make me dash. Spider-Man grabbed Bakugo by the collar. Bakugo, I swear, if you don't shut up, I will play out all 9 Beethoven symphonies with your skull, the vigilante growled, before pushing him away. Bakugo was visibly shaken, but grunted, and backed off. How do you come up with those? Mina asked, internally marveling over the fact that Spider-Man effortlessly shut the brash teen down. With what? The vigilante asked. The quips, the jokes, the wisecracks, the hyperactive pink-skinned girl said. You always have something ready to fire, it's incredible. The jokes. Izuku thought for a while. I always told the occasional joke, even before I became Spider-Man. I began to do it while fighting, started out as a way to cope, cause I was always terrified. It also pisses off the bad guy. It's like saying, hey, you're not good enough to make me take this seriously. And when they get mad, they make mistakes, which makes the whole process easier for me. Wouldn't recommend it for you to do. My entire fighting style is based on how fast I am, plus, it's kind of my thing now. Wouldn't wanna have to sue you for intellectual property theft. Hey, you told a joke when you were talking to me. Eureka piped up. Izuku thought back. She was right, he did tell a joke, albeit a bad one. Did I scare you? She asked. Talking to a beautiful girl like you? I was shaking like a leaf, he replied, causing Eureka's face to flush a hot red, and let out a squeak. Smooth, Izumi said, impressed. I cannot, however, fail to notice that you are talking to her easily now. Izuku chuckled and leaned towards his sister, so only she could hear. Oh, believe me, I am freaking out that line worked. Being Spider-Man for months definitely did wonders for my confidence and self-esteem. He sat up straighter in his seat, leaning away from Izumi, then he realized that his new classmates had sat down around him, and were now attentively staring at him in silence. He was beginning to get uncomfortable when he noticed Eureka slowly stick her arm in the air. He sighed in relief. You're kidding me with the hand up, right? A small laugh rippled through the class. So why did Yagi hug you like that? She asked, a strange timbre to her voice. Oh, yeah. The mask. Spider-Man reached up and pulled it off. She's my lil sis. That went well. It did. Didn't expect you to actually play Beethoven on Bakugo's head, though. Izumi said, as Izuku walked out, Eri on his shoulders, playing with his hair. I warned him. Then Jiro got out a guitar and played along, it was great. Izumi laughed. It was, wasn't it? Izuku chuckled, laughing along with his sister. Izumi was walking them to U.A.'s main gate. The two had fallen into an amicable silence, until Izumi spoke up again. So, how do we feel about Eureka? Back to matchmaking, are we? Izuku groaned. Are you going to ask her out? She asked, stifling a laugh. She already has a nickname for you, you know. Never, he said, immediately. You know, you both obviously like each other, and Eri already has a soft spot for her. I don't, she does? Eri. Yeah, like I said, she's the one that brought up food for her. She'd be a great mother, and plus, Eureka is your biggest fan. If you continue to pry into my romantic life, I will pry into yours, he threatened. No problem. I like Katsuki. What? Izuku nearly choked. No. Izumi burst into laughter after Izuku's reaction. I was kidding, she said. Or was I? I'm serious. I will kill him. Why him? 'Cause I can't kill you. Hardy har har. Go ahead and laugh, you almost made me throw up in my mask, he said. They got to the front gate. Welp, see you later tonight, I guess. Izuku returned to UA later that day with his and Eri's things. He spent time with the class, answering questions until night fell. Eri had fallen asleep a while ago, but Izuku couldn't sleep. He got up and wandered into the bathroom, changing into his costume. He left the room and walked into the common area. Spider-Man. Izuku turned towards the sound. Oh, hi, Oka. What are you doing here? She asked, her face flushing red. I was just going to swing around for a bit, you know? Clear my head. I guess you really need it, seeing as there's a window in your room you could have climbed out of. There is, isn't there? Izuku chuckled. Is something wrong? She asked. Nothing's wrong. Why would something be wrong? He said. It sounds like there's something wrong, Eureka said again, her expression one of genuine concern. You helped me a lot. Let me return the favor, she offered. Izuku pulled off the mask and sighed, plopping down on the couch. I'm Dash. Midoriya, was it? She asked, receiving a nod. You're crying. True, tears were running down Izuku's face. He tried wiping the tears away, but more fell. Eureka was torn on seeing her favorite superhero, not like she'd ever admit that to Izumi, break down in tears. She moved to hug him, providing her silent support. Izuku sobbed harder, and Eureka kept her arms around him. The two were in that position for a while, until Izuku calmed down. Thanks. I think I needed that, he whispered, his voice still hoarse from crying. She smiled softly. You want to talk about whatever it is? She asked. It's my fault, he muttered. It's not. I know it's not, but when is someone going to die because of me? He shot back, raising his voice. Hisashi has been in danger because of me twice. And Eri, the girl doesn't deserve what has happened to her. Think about all the people you've saved, Spider-Man, Eureka interrupted. Without you, I could be kidnapped, raped or even have been killed, she said, clearly disturbed by the idea. It doesn't matter if you're a vigilante, you're as much a hero as All Might, maybe even more, she said, almost beginning to rant. Izuku let out a small chuckle and wiped away the tears. Now you're just trying to make me feel better, he said, a small smile on his face. It's working, thanks. It was nothing, she said, smiling back at him. Your turn, he said suddenly. Why are you still awake, he asked. The smile fell from her face. No reason, she said quickly. Izuku gave her a flat look. I'm going to have to tell you, aren't I, she asked. Yes, you do, he said, looking into her eyes. She looked back, and they locked eyes for a few seconds, until she let out a deep sigh. Today was the second time. I almost died, she said, her voice cracking. Izuku placed a reassuring hand on the hero in training. Well, that's why you're here at UA, right? To get stronger, to protect yourself and others, he reasoned, and Uraraka nodded. Yes, but don't worry, until you get stronger, I'll always be there to protect you, Izuku said, a smile on his face. She nearly burst into tears, instead hugging the vigilante, more aggressively this time. Izuku was shocked at first, but hugged her back. Thank you, she whispered into his chest. They didn't move for a moment. You can call me Izuku, or Deku if you want, Izuku said. Seeing as I call you Oka. Thank you, Deku. She trailed off, falling asleep. As for Izuku, he'd fallen asleep at almost the exact same time. There, on one of the couches in the common area, the vigilante and the hero in training slept. At peace, dozing in each other's arms. Midoriya woke up the next morning in a bed in a room he didn't recognize at first. Blinking, he immediately noticed a weight on his chest. He shifted his gaze downwards from the ceiling and saw the cause. Uraraka was sleeping peacefully on his chest. He frowned. Sure, he liked her, and maybe she liked him, but he didn't want Spider-Man to put her in danger. He then noticed something. He still had the suit on. Uraraka didn't care. She had a small, but content smile on her face. At this point he realized that he also had his arms around her, and there was a blanket over the both of them. This is nice, he sighed, accepting the circumstances. Yeah, nice. The brunette muttered. Oh, you're awake, Izuku began to stammer, but Okako put a finger to his mouth, shutting him up. Don't make it awkward, please, she said, still half asleep. He nodded and she took her finger off his lips. This is nice, he repeated. Yeah, it is, she agreed. The two fell back into a comfortable silence, before Izuku broke it again. Hey, so I was gonna ask you out, he said. Really? Uraraka looked at him, intrigued. And then when you said no, I was going to tell Izumi to stop pestering me. What? I wouldn't have said no. So you're saying yes, he asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah. They looked at each other, before both flushing red due to her outburst. Are we a couple now, he asked quietly. I guess, she said, blushing. The two fell quiet, enjoying the feeling of the other's warmth. You think we're moving too quickly, he wondered aloud. I'm new to the whole boyfriend/girlfriend thing. So am I. And maybe we are, she said, before snuggling in his chest. But this is nice. Yeah, it is, he said, letting his eyes close. Having fun. The two looked over, and saw Izumi and Mina grinning at them at the door. Uraraka flushed as red as a tomato and disappeared under the covers. How long have you two been watching us? Izuku asked, managing to keep his cool. Long enough, Mina said, grinning. Should have gotten up earlier, Izuku muttered. Nope, would not have helped. Izumi smiled. You two slept on the couch, remember? I moved you two to the room with my quirk. You are moving pretty quickly. Mina said, a finger on her chin. You two barely know each other. I feel like we know each other pretty well. Izuku said. Hey, Uraraka, what's Izuku's favorite food? His sister asked. Katsudon. Came her voice from under the blanket. Izumi nodded in approval. Hey, Spider-Man, what's Uraraka's favorite food? Mina asked, echoing her friend. Mochi, right? Mina nodded. You're the one that asked me if I was single, right? He asked. What? No. She denied. Yeah, it was her, Uraraka said, peeking out from under the blanket, reveling in Mina's betrayed expression, before turning back to her new boyfriend. How did you know? She asked. I didn't. Izumi was my next guess, he admitted. Hey. Both matchmakers exclaimed, pouting. Izumi turned to Mina. Come on, Let's give the lovebirds some alone time. The two left and Izuku and Okako sighed as the door closed, and immediately groaned when they heard it open up again. Papa, said a small voice. Hey, Eri. Still pinned down by Okako, Izuku waved his daughter over. She ran over to him and climbed onto the bed. You weren't there when I woke up, she said, pouting. Izuku chuckled and patted her head. Okako smiled at the interaction between the two, then looked away. Izuku caught on and smiled. Freeing his other arm, he used it to pat Okako as well, and while she blushed, she didn't shy away from his touch. Eri now noticed the woman on top of her father. She was the same nice lady she met when Izuku was out cold. Aunt Izumi had introduced her as her best friend. She thought for a while and eventually came to a conclusion. Leaning towards her dad, she whispered something into his ear, and his eyes widened. What did she say? Okako asked, a little sad that the head rubs stopped. Izuku took a deep breath before continuing. So you know how we're giving this whole relationship thing a try? Yeah. And you know how I'm Eri's dad? Yes. Did she asked, her eyes growing, realizing where he was going. Would you be her mom? He asked, carefully. She started, about to say she can't just decide on the spot, then she saw the look in Eri's eyes, and her indecision faded away. She smiled at Eri, and pulled her onto her father, who smiled and embraced the two girls. I guess this makes us a family, he said. It was Izuku's first day in class. He had gotten to know his classmates and spent time with them, so apart from Bakugo's angry glaring, the attention wasn't on him, which he was grateful for. Midoriya, come over here. Aizawa said, beckoning Izuku to the front of the class. Izuku internally groaned, and walked up to the teacher. We had a faculty meeting the other day discussing you. Why yeah. It's illogical having you be a normal student. You're essentially already a fully fledged hero. You're now a teacher's assistant, and you'll have all the perks that come with being a faculty member. Which aren't that much, he added that last bit quietly, but the class heard everything else and was now staring at him in awe. You're still a student, mind you. You might be a fine hero, but you're still a little rough around the edges. Oh. Cool. What is it? The teacher asked, raising an eyebrow. Oh, it's nothing. I expected some kind of payback for the whole sewer thing. Izuku explained. Glad we can put that behind us. The past is in the past, right? We gotta keep moving forward dash. Not by a long shot, problem child, Aizawa grinned. Your fate for that has already been decided. See crap. Is Hawks involved? He asked. Aizawa's evil grin grew. Crap. Izuku returned to his seat with his head hung low. Hey, Izuku. Izumi asked, getting her brother's attention. He's mentioned sewers before. What's that about? She asked. Okako looked up, also curious. I'll tell you some other time, he whispered, eyeing Aizawa, who still had a smile on his face. There wasn't a hero training class today, so the day passed pretty quickly with no major events. After Izumi eagerly showed him around the entire campus, Izuku trudged to his room, all tuckered out, and eager to collapse into bed. He'd put in some Spider-Man time after a quick nap. Opening the door to his new room, he came face to face with an angry Bakugo. Izuku groaned, his dreams of a nap crushed. You think you can just come out of nowhere and show me up? Bakugo snarled. No matter what you do, you'll always be worthless. Yeah. Whatever helps you sleep at night, man, Izuku said, refusing to let Bakugo get under his skin. I'll rearrange your face, the ash blonde shot back, shocked that Izuku was calm. Cool. I always wondered how birds see, with their eyes on the sides of their head. The peripheral vision must be crazy, he said, taking books out of his bag. Take me seriously? Bakugo yelled, yanking a schoolbook out of Izuku's hands. No, I don't think I will. Izuku said calmly. Could you please drop my book and leave? The ash blonde growled and looked at the book in his hand, before a smirk crossed his face. He opened the window a crack, before blowing up the book, and tossing it out the window. Izuku saw red and finally snapped. You really want to fight, don't you? Izuku asked, his voice dangerously calm, and his hands balled into fists. He roared and dived towards Bakugo, who froze because of the feral look on Izuku's face. Izuku tackled the boy, and they crashed through the glass. The two sailed out the window, and Izuku was punching Bakugo all the way down. They landed on the grass below, and rolled a short ways. Bakugo acted first, using his explosions to boost himself off the ground and towards Izuku, who rolled out of the way, then he too got to his feet. The two stared each other down. To Izuku, Bakugo represented everything that ever brought him down. His former best friend, who left him behind because he was quirkless, who wouldn't hesitate to beat him down, day after day. Bakugo made the first move, and Izuku didn't need spider sense to see the clearly telegraphed attack. Right hook. Izuku thought, sidestepping the attack. Just as certain as death and taxes. Never change, Bakugo. Time for my first lesson. Izuku muttered, a small smile on his face. The importance of dodging. You can't teach me squat. Bakugo shouted. First, what happens when you dodge? Spider senses were dialed to an 11, and no matter how quick or unpredictable Bakugo's blasts were, Izuku avoided each and every one with ease. Now here's what happens when you don't dodge, Izuku grinned, cracking his knuckles. My turn. With a simple sweep kick, Bakugo landed heavily on the floor, knocking the wind out his lungs. Seeing the angry look on Bakugo's face up close, something snapped in Izuku, causing painful memories to resurface. I would beg you to stop, Izuku said, punching Bakugo across the face. Did you? When Bakugo didn't reply, Izuku punched him again. You made my life a living hell, and for what? He asked, not letting up. If I was so worthless, why didn't you leave me the hell alone? Instead, you hurt me, Izuku said, tears in his eyes. Day in, day out. Some hero you are. He drew his arm back, ready to hit the boy again, before he felt two arms wrap around him. Deku, stop. Please, Okako begged. She didn't like seeing Izuku like this, so full of anger and hate. He deserves this, he literally asked for this. Izuku yelled, his eyes still trained on Bakugo. Please, Izuku. Izuku twitched when she called him by his name. He stared at the boy, before sighing, relenting and dropping his arm. Damn it. I'm sorry. Izuku said. I lost control. It's okay, Okako said comfortingly. Like you said, he deserved it. Izuku shared a hug with his girlfriend before turning back to the boy laying on the floor, unable to move. Think, Bakugo, think. Izuku yelled at the bully. You saw me take on and beat 6 villains on my own. One of which almost killed All Might. How the hell did you think you would beat me? Bakugo was silent. You need help. I understand that society treats quirkless less than human. I understand that basically your entire life, you've been the strongest. You've been told as such. But, if you don't get rid of that ego and superiority complex, I won't hesitate to knock you down. Hey. Okako said, getting Izuku's attention. When you said he literally asked for it, what did you mean? What did you think I meant? Izuku sighed. The Pomeranian wanted to fight me. Okako stifled the laugh in her throat. Actually, exactly how strong are you? As strong as I need to be, he replied, not missing a beat. You have no idea, do you? Izumi said, joining the couple. Where did you even come from? Yeah, no I don't. Izuku took a silent Bakugo to Recovery Girl's office. After laying the blonde down in a cot, he sat down in a chair, waiting for the nurse to show up. He yawned, and decided to catch a fuse, still wanting that nap he planned to take earlier. He fell asleep for a while and was woken up when he heard Bakugo's voice. Who the hell are you? I'll kick your ass. Who's this sassy, lost child? Hey, Wade, Izuku greeted, knowing better than to ask how the hell he got here. How have you been doing? Don't ignore me. I'm doing okay. Dabby moved in a couple days after you left, and he pitches in with rent, so I don't have to do a crime. You know, I wasn't worried about you doing a crime, until you brought it up. Hey Izuku struck Bakugo's forehead, knocking him out. Sorry about him, his ego is as huge as his brain is tiny. Whatever, Wade waved his hand. Well, I guess this is bye for now. See ya when I see ya. Bye, Wade, Izuku waved back at his friend. Say hi to Binge for me. I will, the merc said, wiping a proud tear from his eye. Hey, about your sister Dash. No. Frick off. All right. Bye. Wade left the room. Izuku leaned back in his chair. He turned his head to look over at Katsuki. A boy led astray by a society that values quirks above all else. He sighed. We used to be best friends. Izuku thought sadly. The door opened, shaking Izuku from his thoughts. It was Inko. Izuku, she asked quietly. Yes. Could we talk? Why did you, she asked, when Izuku had stepped out into the hallway. You wanted me to let you jump? Izuku asked, raising an eyebrow. And no, Inko fought off more tears, as Izuku waited patiently for her to collect herself. I thought you hated me. Even if you didn't, my dumb ass still cares about you. Don't swear. Inko said, before trailing off, knowing she didn't have the right to act as a mother. Izuku chuckled. You do have motherly instincts, so that's a good sign, he smiled. I don't hate you. And I don't want to hate you. You obviously regret what's happened. It'd be rash of me to ignore that. Izuku. You're trying to change, and want to make it up to me. I'm going to at least let you try. Thank you, Izuku. Thank you. She sobbed, dropping to her knees and nearly kissing the ground. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please get up. Izuku thought, sweating, not knowing what to do. When Inko eventually got up, Izuku tried to reassure her. You made really dumb relationship decisions when you were younger, but that's when you were younger. You might regret them, but there's no sense beating yourself up about what can't be changed. When did you get so? Hisashi. I asked him how he feels about you. I'm pretty much quoting him. Hisashi. I know he's our biological father. He told me. He wants me to try and forgive you too. Toshinori is making it so hard. Do you think I could talk to him? Inko asked. Hisashi. You could try, but I would recommend leaving him alone. Mei probably hates you, Izuku said bluntly. I'm not sure what quirk she has. Anytime I bring it up, she acts like I just asked her for her weight or something. It's not pretty. Oh. Izuku. Can't take naps anymore, it's like I still live with Wade, Izuku muttered, blinking the sleep from his eyes. He sat up in bed and met his sister's excited face. I just remembered our bet, she exclaimed eagerly. What bet? Don't you remember? She plopped down on the bed, grabbed his shoulders and shook him. The thing about our hero names. IIT think IIW would remember as something L like T that, Izumi, Izuku said, before smacking Izumi's hands off him. You picked an dumb and uncreative hero name, she said, and the memory came rushing back. Hey. It's not dumb, he defended. Spider-Man. In my defense, it was a picked in the moment, I didn't really have time to think about it. You owe me. Izumi started, before Izuku interrupted her. Don't even. We didn't put anything on that bet, Izuku squashed her hopes. Izumi pouted. He sighed. Fine. I owe you a favor. That good? I guess. The grin returned to her face, making Izuku question his choice. He sighed and hopped out of bed. I need to go see Nizu. I wanna put in some spy day time. Now get out so I can put on the suit. But I wanna see the new suit, she said. Izuku and Mei Hatsum, one of the support course students, had made an improved version of the Spider-Man suit. You wanna see me in my underwear? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Izumi paused. Yes. Out. Midoriya. I can allow you to continue to be Spider-Man, but I can't get you a license, at least not yet, Nizu said, sipping from a teacup. Sitting across from him was Izuku, who was wearing a trench coat over his costume, so he could get to the office without raising any eyebrows. So I'm still on the wrong side of the law, he asked. In the public perception, yes, the Chimera confirmed. I could have Tsukachi let the authorities know that you're alright, but I have a feeling that's not what you want, is it? Nizu grinned hopefully, and Izuku smiled. Yeah, my sister said something the other day, he said. If All Might represents peace, then Spider-Man represents the people. I'd like to have that connection to the regular guy for as long as I can, if that's alright. Of course. It's less of a hassle for me. And the small chance that you might fight a hero is quite entertaining to me. Izuku chuckled and got to his feet, slipping off the coat and pulling the mask on. Most pros generally don't attack me, and I'm friends with some of them. I'll be fine, as long as I don't run into someone as headstrong as Endeavor, he said, opening the window. Hold on a second, Nizu said, stopping Izuku from climbing out the window. The teen turned to the principal, a restless look on his face. The principal took another sip, and pointed to the coat, discarded haphazardly on the chair. Oh, sorry. Izuku picked it up and carefully folded it. Where do I? Isn't that ectoplasms? Nizu asked, and Izuku froze. No. Give it here. I have the perfect hiding spot. Nizu said, and Izuku's jaw dropped. The rodent laughed. What, you think I'm not aware of the prank war you started amongst my faculty? Glad to have you on my side. Spidey said. Well, I'll be off. He bounced out of Nizu's window, and flew over the U-Data barrier. He swung out, and rolled onto the rooftops. He leaped like a gazelle from roof to roof. He was having the time of his life. Spider-Man landed on a building a couple stories high, and he breathed in the city. He looked out over all the different buildings. His neighborhood. He closed his eyes, and he took in the little things he'd do anything to keep safe. The honking of cars in traffic. The playful chatter of kids commuting to school. Someone getting a snack from a hot dog stand. Hey! Spider-Man looked down. The hot dog patron was shouting to get his attention. Yeah. You're that spider guy. Call me Spider-Man, he yelled back down. Okay, Spider-Man. Do a flip. Spidey decided to do him one better. He walked a little ways down the side of the building, his feet planted firmly to the brick. He then did a backflip up the side of the building, reattaching his feet to the wall. Awesome. The man gushed. Thanks. The smell of the hot dogs invaded Izuku's nose. Heavenly. He turned to the vendor. Hey, how much are those? For you, Spidey? Free. Free hot dogs? I couldn't. How about this? One free dog a day, the cart vendor offered. I'll take it. He sat on the rooftop, enjoying his snack, before he was rudely interrupted by his spider sense. He quickly scarfed down the hot dog and looked down to the street. Endeavor, hands on his hips and yelling up at Spider-Man. You might have escaped me last time, but nothing will save you now, Vigilante, the flame hero declared. You know, I have to stop jinxing myself, Spidey thought sadly. He pulled the mask back down over his mouth and leaped down to the street, landing a few feet away from Endeavor. Nice to see ya too, Smokestack, the Vigilante cheekily greeted. Say, you don't think you could leave me alone today? Come quietly, or come burnt, you're coming with me all the same, he snarled in response. What will it be dash? Splash. About a cup's worth of water flew at Endeavor, catching him in the back of the neck, and almost instantly evaporating into steam. The Vigilante and the hero both turned in shock towards the civilian, a man in about his 40s, holding an empty cup and glaring angrily at the flame hero. Leave the kid alone. He's more of a hero than you. Did you just try to get the flame hero to cool off? Spider-Man joked. Endeavor growled, and turned towards the citizen, but then... Splash splash splash. Spider-Man watched in awe as regular people came to his defense. More people began to pelt the flame hero with water any way they could. Some used their quirks, squirt guns, some used cups, and some even had water balloons. It was amazing. The number 2 pro hero in all of Japan, sent running by kids with squirt guns. The people cheered when Endeavor blasted himself away with what little was left of his flame. Thank you all. Spider-Man yelled over the crowd. You're welcome, Spidey, the Spidey squad yelled back. Please don't do that again. He put his hand to his mouth, as if he was whispering. He winked at the crowd. The expressive lenses that he and May whipped up were amazing. But between me and you, it was really funny. The crowd laughed. Izuku had finally honored the favor he owed his sister, and Izumi had basically dragged him to Heroes Park. Hey, why didn't you tell me about the mural? I never got round to finishing it, he said. How do you know I painted it? Hisashi told me, and someone did end up finishing it. Wadash, the mural came into view, and Izuku was flabbergasted. When Izuku had created the mural, there was a big space, initially meant for All Might, but that plan kinda fizzled out. There was a statue of the number 1 hero elsewhere in the park, so no one else really bothered. Now, filling that space was a life-size rendition of the young arachnid Vigilante. It was beautiful, and made with love, and it brought Izuku to tears. Izumi, who did this? A local artist. I don't know. But I'm so happy they did, and look. There's a little inscription here. Izuku looked a little closer, read it, and smiled. It was a description of the work, a title of sorts. It read, The Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. The end.